welcome back, everybody. Good to have you here. Our guest had to leave quite suddenly, so right now, Al, why don't you tell us your favorite part of gardening?
Well, I'd have to say it's getting down and dirty with my hoe.
I just wanted to let you know about my study group.
Oh, don't be a fuddy-duddy. I'll be your study buddy.
I'm about to embark on one of the great challenges of my scientific career.
This work right here is going to change history.
I think this is going to be our greatest mission.
I don't have time to study. I'll never get into Stanford.
I got big plans for you tonight. I got maps, I got charts. I'm going to see you through this because my credibility is on the line.
It's at this point that you'll want to start taking notes.
Welcome to the Sitcom Study, the podcast where we contemplate the TV shows we grew up with and search for the truth and wisdom within the tropes and cliches. And Amy, we have been a little derelict of duty lately in putting out new podcasts. Would you say that there's a certain phrase, maybe like a two-word phrase that sort of sums up what it is we've been doing that has kind of taken up our time from recording the Sitcom Study?
Yeah, I mean, good setup. We have been doing our own home improvement projects.
We are improving our home, not unlike Tim the Toolman Taylor.
Who, by the way, never really improves his own home, right?
Well, he
does a
tries
home improvement
to.
show, but in his garage, he has like hot rods that he rebuilds. He like rebuilds cars.
Yeah, but
he doesn't really do like projects around the house.
I think he does. I think there are several episodes that do have something like that. Oh, I could, our laundry machine broke. Don't worry. I can make the best laundry machine ever. Stuff like that. I think he does sometimes.
A home improvement meta episode is one that I would like to watch.
So anyway, yes, we've been busy with all kinds of sawing and digging and I don't even know the word. We should say in our dynamic, you are both Tim the Toolman Taylor and Al. You have the panache of a young Tim Allen and the competence of an Al Borland, and I basically played the role of like Jonathan Taylor Thomas, just kind of standing by.
No, you are the Pam Anderson. You're the the sexy ring girl.
If I got a nickel for every time someone told me that. Anyway, yes. So as everyone knows, this is the podcast with the patented format that we pick a sitcom trope and talk about 4 different episodes throughout the years that deal with that trope. But in this case, because we're so bogged down with our own home improvement antics, we're recording a mixtape, which is where we revisit 4 different times over the course of our podcast that we've talked about the same show and sort of revisit those segments, put them all together, and today we're going to be re-listening to our segments on home improvement.
That's right. Because even though Home Improvement doesn't do meta episodes, we do.
Yeah. So we've actually talked about Home Improvement 5 times so far. We'll cover the first 4. So we talked about Home Improvement for the first time back in our Visit from the X podcast. If you remember that, Tim got a visit from his ex. Then we talked about it in our Chain Letters episode. Who then
started dating Al, right?
Yeah, I honestly don't remember, but I'm sure we'll get into it. We then talked about Home Improvement in our Chain Letters episode. We talked about the season 1 episode called Unchained Malady. In our Shoplifting podcast, we talked about the episode from season 4 called A Marked Man, where young Mark got in over his head with a certain Swiss Army knife. And
and we've since found out that young Mark, the actual actor, got himself into a little bit of a crime drama himself.
Apparently, he has had his own off-screen run-ins with the law later in life. And for our Save Our Hangout
didn't learn his lesson
episode,
from that shoplifting episode.
Yeah. One of the most enduring sitcom tropes, right? Save our hangout. Somebody's going to turn the diner into a parking lot. In this case,
but not the diner.
No,
it's
it was the hardware store. It was the season 8
hardware
episode.
store. where Mark stole the Swiss Army knife from.
Yes. The I forget the guy's name, but his hardware store, just like the Macs and so many others, it plays a big role in the home improvement ecosystem. We watched the season 8
and just
episode.
like in Family Matters, when their Hangout is going to get taken over, and then, it burns down. That's what happens, right? Yes. Urkel burns it down. Well, then Rachel comes in and owns it, and it becomes Rachel's place for the rest of the series. In this episode of Home Improvement, the guys, Tim and his friends, all go in together, and they buy or they take over the hardware store.
Yeah, all right. You remember these stories better than I do. So those are the first 4 times we dealt with home improvement. Visits from the Ex, chain letters, shoplifting, and save our hangout. And like I said, we're going to revisit those segments. But of course, a mixtape would not be complete if we didn't have our own sort of, some fun interstitial entertainment here. Often we take a quiz. But in this case, I have designed a new pastime.
How Al Borland are you, Jay?
Well, very, because I have designed a new form of entertainment that I'm debuting right now called the Al Borland game. You know nothing about this. I'm presenting this in real time. I thought that just going through a quiz that was like, in episode 14, which kid, gets bullied or whatever. I think, frankly, we don't love the show enough to really do well on those kinds of quizzes, and it would just be kind of annoying for the ToolTime heads out there. So instead, I've collected a lot of information about Al Borland, played by Richard
your boyfriend.
Karn, yeah. Yes, it's well established on this sitcom that despite identifying as a hetero man, I do have a pretty large crush on Al Borland / Richard Karn. He is just my idea of a big, cuddly, bowl of ham. I don't know.
Bowl of ham? Who eats a bowl?
I just like his style. And so I've put together basically a game in which we'll have a little bit of trivia about his career in the middle, but most of this game is going to consist of you being presented with one of Al's fellow sitcom stars from the 90s, right? So these are going to be men who were on sitcoms around the same time as Home Improvement, and you're very simply going to try to figure out, are they older or younger than Al Borland? Okay, so for the rules of this game, for our purposes
the ageless bearded wonder.
Yeah. The character and the actors are the same, right? So like I said, I tried to pick sitcoms that all were around the same time. So if, such and such actor was born on March 13th, 1960, that means the character they play was also born on that day. So we're doing objective ages.
So can you tell me how old was Al Borland?
No, that's the whole point.
Richard Karn.
You are familiar with him based on what you already know.
Okay, so I just have to sort of based on how they look.
And as the game goes on, you're going to get more and more information about which actors are older than younger or younger than him.
So the bonus round is name his age.
His birthday, yes. If by the end of this game you can guess Richard Karn / Al Borland's exact birthday, you win. That's your ultimate goal. Okay.
You only built this game so you could do a deep dive on Al.
I mean, I don't need an excuse.
So that I wouldn't question your search history.
Let's give you a few to kind of get the hang of it. All right. So we're going to start with some guys that were in the same sort of slot as Al in terms of being the sort of second banana on a major 90s
sidekick
sitcom. Yeah. So we're going to start with the character played by that thespian we all know and love, J. Scott Greenspan. Not ringing a bell?
Who the hell is this?
No, you're not from... Well, perhaps you know J. Scott Greenspan better by his nom de plume, if it were his stage name, which is Jason Alexander, right? So we're talking about George Costanza, Seinfeld's buddy.
Older or younger?
Played by Jason Alexander. So I ask you, I'll tell you this. Home Improvement began in 1991, right? All of these shows that we're talking about debuted within a few years of that. Seinfeld actually debuted in 89, so it started a couple years earlier. But I think we're dealing with, in a very general sense, the same sort of type here. Of course, you know, George is not nearly as cuddly as Al. But do you think that George Costanza, played by Jason Alexander, is older or younger than Al Borland, played by Richard Karn?
I think Jason Alexander is older.
That is correct. Wait, no, it's not. I forgot how numbers worked. It is not.
This is why I didn't let you do any of the measuring on our own home improvement projects.
Right. If somebody's birthday is later, that means that they're younger.
Younger.
Yes.
That's right.
No.
I forgot how numbers work.
Yeah. Jason Alexander was born 3 years after Richard Karn.
Ooh.
So George Costanza is 3 years younger than Al Borland.
Very interesting.
Now, continuing in the sort of second banana category, Robert Barone, right, who is, of course, the brother of Ray Barone. We're talking about Brad Garrett's character on Everybody Loves Raymond. So is Raymond's brother, Robert, played by Brad Garrett, older or younger than Richard Karn?
Oh, Brad Garrett is younger than Richard Karn.
That is right. He's also considerably taller at 6'8", and he is 4 years younger than Al. All right. Our last one for now, Mr. Niles Crane, portrayed by David Hyde Pierce, Frasier's younger brother, I believe, in the show.
Yes.
Frasier began in 1993, so it debuted a couple years after Home Improvement, if that helps you at all. Is Niles Crane, played by David Hyde Pierce, older or younger than Al Borland?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. So, because David Hyde Pierce is one of these, like, he just has such a baby face and he looks so young for so long. But I think he might be older. I'm going to go with he's older than Al.
He is younger as well. He is born the same year as George Costanza. He is 3 years younger than Al Borland. So I didn't do it on purpose, but all three of those guys were in fact younger. And there you go. So we will continue this game shortly, but now we're going to revisit the first time we ever discussed Home Improvement, which was on our Visits from the X podcast. This was where we talked about Bob Newhart getting a visit from his ex, Coach. If you remember the Parents' Weekend episode, he had to deal with that. And one of the few times we've ever talked about My Name is Earl. So, this is it. Our segment from the Visits from the X episode. This was where we discussed Home Improvement for the very first time.
It wasn't a surprise.
Okay, moving on to Home Improvement.
Season 2, Episode 22, X Marks the Spot.
Yep, this was one that, I kind of feel like we watched because it was on, right? Neither of us, I think, are the biggest Tim Allen fans, but I definitely watched my share of this in the 90s. I feel like they slotted it in between Seinfeld and something else, or they were always putting it in places in the lineup, I feel like, where it was kind of presented to me and I didn't avoid it.
Yeah, I think this was an ABC show, so it was probably on with all these other, ABC style shows that had a bunch of kids in them, and but yeah, definitely. I think my favorite thing always about this show was Wilson.
Sure. Well, and my favorite thing is Al. I think he's very sexy. And this particular episode begins with Tim and Al doing their salute to stripping, right? This was a recurring joke on the show. They would always do, this is our salute to, whatever, some
nailing,
aspect of hardware.
Or some sexual innuendo having to do with carpentry or building a car or something.
And so it's the salute to stripping, and Tim pulls down a big sort of like poster, and it's like a photoshopped Al on like a bikini model, basically.
Yes. And then Al gets embarrassed and tries to get rid of it, and Tim has another one right behind it, and so then he runs off the set. Yeah,
good stuff. And then we get into our customary home improvement intro. Now, one random observation I'll throw out there. Do the Taylors have the worst hair per capita of any family on TV? You could have called this show 3 Mullets and a Perm. That's my alternate title.
There is no reason. There is no reason for that older son to look like he is, like he belongs to Hulk Hogan. Like the fact that child did not grow up to go into wrestling of some kind is shocking to me. Yes, I will never understand the mullet on that kid.
Yeah, the kid have mullets. Jill, at least in this era, a very attractive woman, has that Marcy Darcy bonsai tree curly hair thing.
Super short bob that comes right below her ears.
The irony is Tim, Mr. Caveman guy, is the only one with a decent haircut. Well, he looks good.
And Al Borland is like the only one who's got a style, Bob Vila style, that is classic.
Yeah, we're fully on board with that. So walk us through the setup for this one.
So Tim and Al are at a restaurant, bar, whatever, after their show.
Oh, could I just pause 1 second and say this bar scene was like directed by Paul Thomas Anderson or something. Did you notice the way it starts on what we would call background artists, except they're in the foreground? This random couple toasting drinks, and then the camera like glides over their table and, gently reaches Tim and Al talking at this bar. Like it was cool, but it's almost like out of place in this world. They were just really going for it with the cinematography on this.
Yep. So yeah, they're doing like a post-mortem on the show and talking about, probably planning the next one. But a woman comes into the bar and she was standing at the telephone, the pay telephone, and Al notices her looking at their table. And so he kind of stands up and is like, oh, that woman is checking me out. Oh, look at that. I think she might recognize me from TV. Oh, what do you think? And Tim turns around and immediately turns back and is like, oh my God, that's, Stacy or whatever her name is, my high school girlfriend. Don't let her see us. Don't let her see us. And he's like, too late, I think. And so then she's continuing her phone conversation, and Tim explains to Al that he never really broke up with her because Jill, he went away to college and he started seeing Jill, but Jill wouldn't get serious with him unless he broke up with his high school girlfriend that he was sort of still kind of stringing along and dating on the weekends or whatever when he would go home. And so he tells Jill that he did break up with her and just never called her again.
Yeah. Ghosted, right? That he was ghosting before it was a thing. Like I said, this is kind of a recurring subtrope in some of these. The relationship did not end in a satisfactory way, and there's all this unresolved stuff. So yeah, this woman sits down with them, right? Like Al invites her over, and they're all talking. We get another instance of good intentions or innocent personalities sort of creating problems, because Al just starts volunteering Tim to, have her over, or she said, the woman says something like, oh, I'm so curious to meet your wife. And Al is like, well, why don't you go meet her? Al is just all of a sudden facilitating all this stuff that Tim does not think is a good idea.
Right. Well, so she's like, oh, I have to run. I have to meet this realtor. Oh, you're looking for a house. Yeah, it's in this neighborhood. Al's like, that's Tim's neighborhood. It's right around the corner. If you want to meet Jill, you should just stop by. And Tim's like, what the hell are you doing? No. And so, but that is what happens.
And that is Tim is right in this situation, right? Al is normally, whenever they're on duty, right, Al's function is always to be the smart one, and Tim is the idiot. But I feel like this is one of those situations where in their personal lives, Al is actually being the dummy, right? Tim is right to think this is a bad idea.
Yeah, I got the impression that Al was doing it, number one, to kind of get Tim's goat, and number two, because he was kind of interested in Stacy and maybe wanted to stop by, which is what he does, to see her again.
So Tim comes home from work, and we have another sort of lie of omission situation because, Jill is like, what happened at work today? Oh, nothing interesting. Oh, really? So you didn't run into your ex-girlfriend? So I just wanted to stop for a second. I'm sure we talked a little bit about this before. I was thinking about Tim and Jill in this sort of spectrum we're always talking about these sitcom couples and how, of course there's always going to be strife and conflict. That's why it's a sitcom. But how in the 90s it starts to get kind of toxic, and you have some of these shitty shows that start instead of reflecting the natural angst that we all have once in a while, just start teaching us how to be horrible people. Tim and Jill, I feel like, is one of the examples of they kind of get it right, but pave the way for shows that get it wrong, right? I think it's a pretty strong aspect of this show that actress that plays Jill is very good at playing that sort of dignified annoyance, kind of like Alex P. Keaton's dad. She's very good at sort of showing her chagrin. And we always get the sense that Tim is just in the tradition of George Jefferson and all these other ones. He's a bumbling idiot dad. And, their dynamic of being at each other's throats, but not really. And I think all of that works. And yet I see this as a very clear step in the direction of those more toxic ones that we don't like.
I see, to me, Patricia Richardson and Patricia Heaton and Leah Remini are all the same character, just as all of their men are the same character. They are these sort of silly dad trope, like we talked about with Bob Newhart not wanting to be that. And these are the wives that are sort of constantly rolling their eyes. And it's none of their wives ever have anything nice to say about them, about their men. Because they can't, because they are the silly dad guy, kind of dumb, right? Always messing things up, a little too blustery, a little too high on their own shit. But then what that means is then the wife becomes this sort of harpy kind of woman who only says kind of mean things about her husband and is always sort of rolling her eyes and whatever. And that dynamic, I think, is toxic. And I think it doesn't pave the way. I think it already is.
I could see that. I guess it's funny how a lot of times our conversations about this tend to boil down to I'm more impressed at the way the individual conflicts are fleshed out, and I think that Home Improvement was usually good about that the focus, whatever they were disagreeing about, tended to be the crux of the episode, the main story. And they gave her, if nothing else, they just gave her lots of screen time and lots to do. And maybe that the way that actress played it just works better for me. Maybe the fact that it's just a little earlier than some of those other shows, so it feels a little fresher. For whatever reason, maybe I'm letting it off the hook when I shouldn't, but I just feel like, again, by the end of the episode, I never get the sense that she was portrayed as annoying or anything. No. I get the sense that she's maybe got the unfortunate role of having to always be the defender of common sense and safety and stuff like that.
No, but I think what you're saying with this show is the same thing that you said when we watched Everybody Loves Raymond, and it's the same thing that you said about King of Queens. Like, you're noticing that in each individual episode, if you take them as singular instances, there is a central conflict that is pretty true to an actual marriage, sort of, most of the time, and that there is a way that it's dealt with. The problem I have with all of these shows is that what you're talking about is every single episode. So when you zoom out of it, who is this person? Like, who is the husband? Who is the wife? They're flat. They're nobody. They are themselves a trope. And so they aren't real. So they can't possibly be having real conversations right here and now. And that is, like, I think the most real conversations that happen on Home Improvement are between Wilson and Tim, or Al and Tim, or the mom and the kids.
Yeah, I think I agree with a lot of that, especially the way that, again, like when we talk about the way at this time, the shows are always from the point of view of the white man that is at the center of it. And so, yeah, they all exist in relation to him. And so if it's like, well, a big part of who I am is I do these crazy, dangerous things that don't make any sense and piss off my wife, then yeah, her role is going to be I always get pissed off. And you're absolutely right. I guess what I'm just saying is, A, the actors do a good job with it. And to an extent, the writers do, like I always say, a good job with fleshing out the individual scenarios. But the point is well taken that it's still kind of a shitty way of characterizing the whole thing that doesn't really change until we get the sitcoms that are actually from women or other voices.
It also kind of, you said a similar thing about Coach, where it's like, why are we focusing on his perspective when the woman was the one who had the much more interesting journey in that show, but asked and answered, right? Because the show is called Coach. It is his vehicle. And we're going to be telling these stories from that perspective.
I don't know. I guess we'll, to a certain extent, agree to disagree about Tim and Jill. Definitely not the ideal relationship for anyone to be modeling after. So it all kind of comes out. I don't know, is this when the kids come in with the yearbook?
Yes. This was a funny scene. The kids are giving Tim so much shit for having an ex-girlfriend, just in the same way that they would give each other shit for, like, liking a girl. They're like, ooh, Dad. Oh, hey, Mom, look, she's hot. She's a babe. Look at her, Mom. Oh, my gosh, what are you going to do? And the mom's like, everyone's a babe at 17.
Well, I noticed that, again, there's the emphasis on weight, right? Because one of the kids says specifically, she's skinny, Mom. And the mom says, oh, it's easy to be skinny when you're 17 or something. So,
and then they read what she wrote in the yearbook, where she calls him, like, her love muffin, right? And so then, of course, the boys are just teasing their dad, like, hey, love muffin.
Yeah. When the doorbell rings, they go answer the door, love muffin. And and it's Stacy. Like, she shows up
on her way to go see this realtor. She stops by before she goes to see the realtor. So she's there, and they get to chatting on the couch. Tim has to go outside and help the boys because they're hurting each other.
Yeah. Go ahead. I just wanted to point out, Tim yells at Mark for letting Brad sit on him. Like, the older boy is sitting on the younger boy, and he's like, yeah, get off, kind of pushes him off. And he's like, well, next time, don't let him sit on you. But,
great parenting.
Yeah, but then he talks to Randy. I think I'm remembering all this right. Randy's the middle one, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, and says, I don't think it's a good idea that those two ladies are in there talking about me. They're going to start making up stupid stories about me.
Yeah, they're going to, and he's like, Dad, he's like, Dad, they look like they're having a good time or whatever. And he's like, yeah, it's fine. If they were talking about me, they'd be laughing. And then uproarious laughter. And so, oh no, I got to go in and whatever. So he goes in, and Jill has now realized, or is about to hear the story, that she didn't know that Tim never actually broke up with Stacy and lied to Jill about it.
Yeah. And then how does Al get involved?
Al just shows up. I think Al kind of was hoping that this would be true. So he comes over to pick up the helium tank that Jill had borrowed to fill up the balloons for the Cub Scout or Boy Scout meeting. And, oh, look, Jill, Stacy just happens to be there. How exciting. Oh, you're going to meet with the realtor and see this house? Well, Al's an expert on carpentry, so you should take Al with you. So then they go off together to look at this house together so he can help her know whether or not it's a fixer-upper or a good buy.
Right. So we get Al and Stacy paired off, and then we get Tim and Jill having the conversation. And this is where we get the super gender roles-y type stuff that Tim Allen is famous for, where Jill says women need closure, which again, like, she's just as wrapped up in this men are from Mars, women are from Venus kind of attitude. You know, that's just in the DNA of this show.
Oh, it's in the DNA of the 90s.
It's true. And then he goes off on his whole thing, talking in the funny voice, going like, I'm a woman, I'm annoying, I'm so dumb. Just like really just laying into that, like,
yes,
I don't know.
Because he says it's not closure. You just want to like have really long conversations and drag everything out, even if the relationship is already over, which I tend to agree, unfortunately, with Tim here.
Well, yes and no. What he's saying is true. Like, we don't need to talk about this a lot. And yeah, like maybe some people talk more than necessary, but you wouldn't agree with the way that he broke up with her.
No, he didn't break up with her. He just ghosted her, right? So like he absolutely needs to, you know, have some courage and call and have a hard conversation, right? What in the way that he's saying, oh, I'm such a man, but yet also being conflict avoidant when it has to do with an emotional conflict, that always like boggles my mind, because it takes more courage, more guts, more fucking balls, as they say, to have a hard emotional conflict conversation than it does to just be like, man, I don't like you, and punch somebody in the face.
Yes, because traditional masculinity is fake. Like you're just bumping up against, like it has nothing to do with real courage or anything. All of that stuff is bullshit.
It's bullshit.
Just stupid construction that we made. So yeah, of course he doesn't have any familiarity with real communication or confronting his feelings or anything like that. I think he could make the point that, yeah, that's what I should have done back then. It's still kind of pointless to really get into it now. But sure, I think he owes her, like, you know, just acknowledge, yeah, that was really shitty.
Yeah, which he isn't, right? He is not acknowledging that he did a dumb thing in the past. He's just kind of like, oh, I'm just going to sweep it under the rug and pretend like it didn't happen. So, you know, Jill tells him that he was dumb, and he's like, whatever, it's dumb that women want to talk so much. And then he goes to Wilson and they have like trading quotes conversation.
Fun. I don't know if this had ever happened before, but this made me laugh when Wilson says, oh, you know, Confucius said whatever. And then Tim has his own quote and he goes, oh, but didn't Bartholomew so-and-so say, I never regret what I did not say? And Wilson's reaction when he's like, oh, okay, like that Tim had his own rebuttal quote. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. And it was all about like lies of omission and what's a lie, and whether like when the truth is the right thing to do or when it's okay to not tell the truth.
Yeah. That's
what all these like kind of famous quotes and famous sort of proverbs are about. And so, yeah, it's great. And then Wilson wins 3-2.
5-4.
Oh, it's 5-4. My bad.
Yeah. We get 9 quotes back and forth until Tim runs out. But yeah, that was very funny. What is Wilson's ultimate advice here? I feel like this was not one that really hinged on Wilson's wisdom.
No, but it was he was giving Tim advice on what you didn't tell Jill is the problem. It's that you didn't tell Jill after all these years that you had lied to her.
That you had lied to her about not having really broken up with the other girl.
Right.
That makes sense. But I would say from here on, the story sort of switches, right? Because now Stacy calls for Al's info. She's interested in Al.
Yeah, they went to the house and they had like a 2-hour date afterwards. They went out and had drinks, and it seemed like they, you know, had a good time, at least from her perspective.
Right. And again, I agree with Tim when he says this is a bad idea. He says, like, I don't want this. You know, we shouldn't have, this is just, you know, shitting where you eat, mixing your metaphors, whatever you want to say. Like, I don't like the idea of Al canoodling with my ex-girlfriend.
Right.
And of course, Jill is like, no, later for you. I think this is great. And, you know, encourages it.
Yeah. She was like, Al seemed interested. I like her, and she might move into the neighborhood. And so whatever, it seems fine to me. Let's just, like, bygones are bygones. Let's be friends with this woman who might live down the street and maybe that Al likes. And so Jill sets up a double date for them.
Yeah.
Without consulting Tim or Al, and Tim is kind of like waving her off, telling her not to do it. But then Tim goes to work the next day and is like, hey, we're going out to lunch today, me and you and Jill and Stacy. And Al's like, oh, I can't go.
Yeah. Now, I was genuinely thrown off by this, and this story didn't go where I thought it would. And I'm a little baffled, I guess, by the motivations here. So Al just says straight up, she's not my type. Like, I kind of changed my mind. Like, I'm not interested in her.
They had a short kind of first date sort of a thing-ish. And yeah, he's like, nah, it was nice. She seems like a friend, not a, you know, lover, right. Jay.
What I thought was that the reason he's not interested in her was because she's Tim's ex. To me, that would be a relatable sitcom-y thing, that he likes her, but that's the stumbling block, is I can't be like Tim's sloppy seconds, you know.
Oh, wow.
I can't.
No, he didn't even have that reasoning.
No, exactly. That never entered into it. But that was something that I kind of related to personally, and I thought like that's a good place for this story to go. As it is, we never find out why Al doesn't like her, and it ends up being, to me, kind of cruel on this woman. It just sort of ends up like this is a character that these two guys at two different times in their lives just weren't interested in, for no reason we get other than like she just doesn't have the zhuzh, you know?
Yeah, well, what Al says is that he feels about her like it's like hanging out with his sister, that she's very nice, but he just doesn't have romantic feelings.
And
for her.
I thought that was him just kind of being euphemistic and polite because he didn't want to say, I got weirded out that she was Tim's ex.
That's interesting. No, I didn't read anything of that into that. I just heard, to me, this was just a straight down the middle, like, right. I'm just not interested. And so he didn't want to go have another date with her, and he hadn't set one up. He had done what is a perfectly reasonable thing to do after a first date, which is just to not have a second. Right? And unfortunately, his friends got involved and set him up on a second date that now he's like, I'm not going to go. But now Tim is in this weird, awkward position of knowing that he is either going to have to lie and say, sorry, Al's busy, and just like kick that can down the road. But then when he shows up, or that he couldn't come or whatever, but then when he shows up to the lunch, Jill and Stacy are like, oh, you know, I really want Al to call. Oh, Al's definitely going to call. Don't you think so, Tim? Yeah, he's going to call. So they like put him in this position of having to say that Al likes Stacy more than he does. And then Al's like, oh, he shows up.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I shouldn't have put Tim in the position of telling you that I wasn't interested in you. I should just come here myself and tell you I wasn't interested in you. To which this woman is like sitting at the table like, yeah. God, that is weird. Wow, that's harsh. Like, thank you, but also damn. Like, and again, I'm going to leave now. And then Jill's like, we're all adults. It doesn't have to be awkward. Let's sit here and eat. The fuck no.
Yeah. That's what I mean by, like, without that extra motivation, this does just come across as just piling onto this woman character. And, you know, for all the reasons that we said before, it all boils down to this is for the benefit of and from the point of view of our, you know, central male character. And he has to learn to, like you were saying, have a little backbone and be more confrontational, as it were, and not weasel out of things and just tell people what they want to hear and ghost everybody, or ghost by proxy with Al. He just needs to be more of a straight shooter. And so, again, this lady gets all bummed out so that he can learn that.
But that's the thing. He doesn't. Because when presented with the opportunity to change his ways, he does the same thing. He doesn't tell the truth. He just sort of tries to get through the situation and hopes that it'll go away and, be brushed under the rug. And so in my mind, it would have been better if this happened earlier in the episode so that we then can get to see him by the end of the episode have a deep conversation with Jill, or have a realization with Wilson, or have something happen with his kids where he has to get them to do something that he hasn't done, right? We should allow him to grow, but instead we didn't. Instead it was written where it was just this lady gets dumped on, Tim gets man, you didn't learn a lesson. Okay, everybody, let's just sit down and eat and we'll pretend like it's not awkward. End credits.
No, I think it's supposed to be that he learned it for next time.
No, he didn't. He absolutely did not.
I think that's the intention, is that this whole catastrophe happens again because he was so non-confrontational. And he just has to try harder next time. I don't know. So look, tracking the trope, I mean, lots of tension and chaos and weirdness, and again, best intentions go afoul.
Well, and just the surprise that the girlfriend is in town, that was, oh, she's here. Oh, she wants to talk to me when doesn't mind being in my life a little bit.
Well, and to an extent, it's going to have something in common with the next one. So let's move on to... Okay, that was from our Visits from the X podcast. We're now going to listen to our home improvement segment from the Chain Letters episode. But first, I'm going to give you a few more gentlemen and see if you can figure out their age vis-a-vis Al Borland.
I'm not doing very good at this. I'm 1 for 3.
Well, let's see. This time we're switching gears into, these are some leading men that we're talking about.
Okay.
Mr. Carl Winslow, portrayed by Reginald Vell Johnson. Do you think that he's older or younger than Al Borland? I'll say Family Matters began in 89, so it had a 2-year head start on Home Improvement. But what do we think?
I think he's younger.
I regret to tell you that Reginald Vell Johnson was born 4 years earlier than Richard Karn, so Carl Winslow is 4 years older than Al Borland.
I'm so bad at this.
Now, here's an interesting one. This is, what's his face? This is, and I guess he's not really the lead of his show. He's the leading male. I'm talking about that snooty old hoity-toity son of a gun, Mr. Sheffield from The Nanny.
Mr. Sheffield.
Played by Charles Shaughnessy.
Shaughnessy, that's right.
Mr. Sheffield is older or younger than Al Borland?
When did The Nanny premiere?
The Nanny premiered 1993, so a couple years later than Home Improvement. We should say Home Improvement went the entire duration of the 90s, 1991 to 99. So these are all these 90s shows that most of them were eclipsed by it.
Yeah, early 90s. Or late 80s. Let's see. I think that Mr. Sheffield is older than Al Borland.
That is correct. He is almost exactly 1 year older. Charles Shaughnessy
similar birthdays.
Was born 1 year before Richard Karn, making his character Mr. Sheffield 1 year older. Okay, I like this. What about a little guy who maybe had a few people kind of knocking around in that old noggin of his? I'm talking about...
Oh, the guy who looks just like Mr. Sheffield, Herman from Herman's Head.
I'm talking about Herman Brooks from Herman's Head, played by William Ragsdale, star of Fright Night when he was a young man. William Ragsdale, a.k.a. Herman Brooks, is he older or younger than Al Borland?
He is younger, but I would bet if he is like within months. I bet they were born the same year.
You are right in your answer that he is younger, but you are incorrect in that this is actually a wider margin than most of the other guys we've talked about. William Ragsdale is 5 years younger than Al Borland or than Richard.
Interesting.
So yes, William Ragsdale hit the scene.
I mean, I guess he was
after.
playing like somebody right out of college in Herman's Head. He was supposed to be 25. And Al Borland definitely was not trying to play 25.
Yeah, and Herman's Head did start the same year, 1991. As Home Improvement. Of course, it only lasted
Which is so funny because that show plays so like late 80s to me.
Yeah. So after our next segment, we're going to switch it up a little bit. I've got some information about the larger career, the corpus, if you will, the body of work of Mr. Richard Karn. But first, we're going to listen to our segment from the chain letters episode. This was when Edith Bunker got a chain letter and she started getting superstitious. Yes. The gals from The Fact of Life got a chain letter. We talked all about them. Third Rock from the Sun. We watched Superstitious Dick. And amidst those, we had this segment about home improvement from the season 1 episode, Unchained Malady. Here it is. Yeah, that's true. Okay, let's see how this all plays out in the next show, Home Improvement.
Season 1, Episode 19, Unchained Malady.
Yeah, we've talked about Home Improvement a couple times. I don't know, even though it's kind of dumb, and I definitely am not the biggest Tim Allen fan, I always kind of look forward to it a little bit whenever we've got Home Improvement on the slate.
So I won't agree with you for any of the other episodes that we've watched, but here in season 1, this was a fun one, and I was like, okay, this is charming enough. Now I kind of understand why it lasted for as long as it did, because at least like this season or this episode that we're watching in season 1, I enjoyed it, and I remember being a kid kind of liking the show and thinking it was pretty funny, and I'm like, all right, well, you know, now I feel less bad about my decision making back then because this one was not bad. It was a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, good one in quotes. It was yeah.
I guess one thing that's a little better in this early one, I remember noting last time that the Taylor family had per capita the worst hair.
Only one mullet this time.
Yeah, they haven't become a full family of mullet heads. Yeah, the kids are young and cute.
Yeah, and I forgot about the mom from Boy Meets World being in season 1 as what's her face's like best
Jill's
friend. Yeah.
So yeah, the beginning is going to be the two of them kind of teasing Tim. He says something where he's annoyed by their estrogen humor. He goes, this must be your estrogen humor. Right? So we get right off the bat like, oh, right, it's Tim Allen. This is all going to be about how women are crazy.
Right, but he is 100% the butt of every single minute in this episode.
Yes, but in that special way that like makes him sort of lovable.
Yes.
So what happens with this one? Who gets the chain letter? Is it him or Jill?
Al sends it, so it was to Tim.
Okay. Yeah. The next day, Al perks up when Tim mentions this chain letter.
Yes.
He says that he's been having good luck because this morning he won a shovel on a radio.
And then
Pamela Anderson,
because we're in season 1, so she's still on the show. She comes running in and she's like, I just found out they need to, paint my apartment or fumigate my apartment. Al, can I stay with you tonight? And he's like, sure. And then he looks over at Tim like, see, good luck. luck. Whereas Tim has gotten the chain letter that morning or the night before and goes on a tirade about how they're the stupidest things ever and nobody would ever do them. And Jill and her friend are like teasing him about it. And so they're like, fine, we'll just throw it away. If you don't want it, we'll just throw it away. And so they throw it into the trash. And then he has just one bad luck thing after another kind of befall him.
Yeah, this is sort of, I guess we could say the arc of this trope tends to be that you always are going to have like a skeptic and a believer in some way.
And the skeptic is usually the one that's going to get kind of their comeuppance.
Right, yeah, exactly. They're going to have a bunch of silly stuff happen to them. And I'm also noticing a formula in the Home Improvement episodes, because this is the same thing that happened with the meeting the ex episode, where Jill gets the call that informs her about something, and then Tim comes home and she doesn't
tell him.
Well, no, he doesn't know that she knows about a thing that he's going to try to hide from her. Right. So in this case, it's that he turned his hands green.
Yes.
Somehow.
And Al has called. Right. So one of the accidents that befall him is that they are working with green dye for something on the show, and we see them mixing it in the scene where Pamela Anderson is like, hey, I need a place to stay. And then we are back at the Taylor household, and Al has called to tell them Tim has dyed his hands Hulk green. Yeah. And he comes in and he's got his hands inside the jacket, the pockets of his bomber jacket, and will not take them out.
Yeah, it is that same exact dynamic as the other one of, oh, did anything interesting happen at work today? No, normal day, and just him trying to hide from her and her trying to keep from him that she knows.
The friend is trying to get a hug from him, and he won't take his hands out of his pockets. And then Jill grabs a basketball and she's like, catch! And it just hits his chest and falls off because he won't take his hands out of his pockets again. Yeah. And then she's like, come on, come off it, Tim. Al called. And he's like, oh, why didn't you say something? And he takes the hands out and they are green, like Hulk green.
He starts talking about how he's going to have George Foreman on the ToolTime show the next day, and we get more of this humor of the women not knowing about sports stuff. Like there's nothing, lots of people don't know about sports, but it's this lame joke of a woman is always going to say the most wildly wrong thing
when it comes to sports.
Yeah, if you ask her in this case, who George Foreman is, she's not just going to say, no, I've never heard of him. She's going to say, oh, he's the leading pitcher for the Dallas 49ers swimming football team. They're always going to say the wrong sport. They're going to mix everything up. It's that lame humor that women are aggressively idiotic when it comes to anything to do with sports.
Well, and I was like, how could she not know who George Foreman is? The Grill.
Well, that is the thing. Yeah.
But here's why. This episode is 1992, 1993. George Foreman Grill comes out in 94. So this is pre-George Foreman Grill. This is just him getting his name out there.
Yeah, I was going to say, at this point, throughout the 90s, boxing was maybe the seventh most notable thing that George Foreman was doing. He had the Grill. He was doing commercials for a muffler company or something.
What was the one where he had all of his other sons named George
that
lined
was the
up?
Muffler.
Is that the muffler?
He was I just
remember being
TV.
Here's my son George, my other son named George, my other son named George, and there were 7 Georges.
He was not shy about showing up on camera, and so he was just all over the place, and this was one of his many appearances. So he does the next day, he shows up on ToolTime.
And that's Tim's reasoning for saying, I'm not having bad luck because I didn't do the chain letter. This is, George Foreman has agreed to come on the show, so that's good luck. I don't believe in this chain letter. So he and Jill get into some sort of, silly argument, not a real argument.
She's saying boxing is just for dummies. There's no, like, that's a stupid sport. It's just idiots hitting each other. And he goes like, no, boxing is an art. It's a science. It's all about strategy and
like
knowing the right moves.
You're not going to be able to get a hit.
Yeah, he goes, look, I'll show you. You try to punch me and you won't be able to because I know about boxing. And so I think that's what it was. And it's almost kind of flirty little.
Yeah, they're having a good time. Like, she wasn't really gonna, hit him hard or whatever. And then Mark has been trying to learn how to blow a bubble with bubble gum. And he comes back downstairs after having gone upstairs to practice. And he goes, look, I blew a bubble. And Tim turns and Jill clocks him. And so he gets a black eye.
So that's part of his bad luck.
Right.
That's part of the recipe of everything. Because by the time he has to show up and be on camera the next day, which I was going to say before they even got into that, like, what are you doing? You don't dare your wife to punch you in the face if your job is being on camera.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's hubris. He so thought that it wouldn't happen.
Right. Or at least you give her boxing gloves, which they do later.
They do later on, exactly.
Yeah, so by the time he's on camera, he's got a black eye, he's got green hands, and George Foreman comes, and they're going to build a staircase. This is one of their little, like, ready-made ToolTime things.
Right.
And this is where the storyline about Randy and the jumping the ramp thing pays off, because Tim asks George Foreman, have you ever encountered a challenge that you couldn't face, that you couldn't meet?
Right.
And George Foreman tells him, like, a man must know his limitations.
Yes.
And so that sort of changes Tim's tune of, like, oh, okay, so
like,
you mean
you don't have to do everything you're
you
dared.
don't have to accept every single dare.
Yeah, it was very Marty McFly, his response at first.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, he goes home, he talks to Wilson.
So wait, though, he at this point is feeling like the bad luck has been a problem. And so he can't find the chain letter because the garbage has been taken out, and Jill was teasing him about it.
Right.
But also George Foreman is like, oh, will you hold the nail for me so I can start nailing it in? And he's like, there's this whole funny little bit where Al won't hold the nail, and nobody wants to hold the nail for him.
Tim going, well, George, why don't you just hold it yourself? And he goes, I don't think so, Tim.
No.
And then Al goes, he asks, Al, why don't you? I don't think so, Tim. And then he calls to Pamela Anderson. She says the same thing from off camera.
Yeah. And so we had that little bit, and then he goes, I got it. And he nails in the nail. He's like, I'll get it started for you. Like my dad used to do with me when I would help him with carpentry projects. Uh-huh. Yeah. And then George Foreman winds up and just whacks totally misses the nail, and the entire staircase falls apart.
Yeah, by the time he gets home, he has had the turn that so many of these characters have had. He believes in the chain letter. He's sheepishly asking where it could be, and that's what brings him outside, right, looking for the garbage. That's
he gets caught, and Jill teases him because he said he wasn't looking for it, but she knows he is.
Yeah.
And then he goes to Wilson for some good advice.
Wilson corroborates the naval officer story.
That's right. He said, a friend of mine.
Yeah, he goes, I did have a friend who didn't respond to a chain letter. He was a naval officer and he got decapitated.
No, he said he was a naval officer and I've never heard from him again.
Okay.
And Tim goes, was he stationed in Borneo? And Wilson's like, yes, actually. And he goes, he was decapitated. And he was like, oh, that's very sad.
But so Wilson sort of gives him this idea that the bad luck could be kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? He sort of says this idea that people kind of make their own luck or lack thereof.
If you're thinking about it, then it's manifesting kind of a thing. He's like, but if you want to ward it off, here are some things you can do.
Yeah. So then he sort of gives him, and perhaps these are meant to be sort of like psychosomatic,
And doesn't
placebos.
he say that though? Doesn't he say, if you want to change your mindset, sometimes these talismans and trinkets will work to change your mindset. It's all in your mind, but if you need something to trick your mind, try these.
Yeah, so he gives him garlic and wolf's bane.
Yes.
Right. And
says, I need the garlic back because I'm making a salsa or a pesto later.
Yeah. Jill eventually suggests that the bad luck wasn't the chain letter, it was his empirical clumsiness.
Right. So we get a really nice scene where Tim has had this kind of, come to an understanding about a man needs to know his own limitations. So now he's going to pass on this sage George Foreman advice to Randy. So Randy had a brand new bike, and this jump from this 5-foot tall ramp destroyed the bike. And so he was trying to hide it. Of course, he got caught, and now he and Tim are in the garage trying to fix this bike. And Randy's, thing at first was like, man, like it was the bike's fault. Like the bike couldn't take the ramp, and it wasn't the landing that messed it up. Like I had the jump solid. I did great. I didn't land poorly. The bike just couldn't handle it. So we got to fix up the bike. Dad. And so they're out there, they're fixing the bike, and they're having this father-son conversation. And Tim sort of turns and starts giving better advice and saying a man needs to know his limitations. So he sort of finds that middle ground between his hyper masculinity, toxic stuff with what both George Foreman and Jill are saying.
Yeah. And then, Jill points out that he's just empirically clumsy.
Right. She's been keeping a list. She's like, I've been thinking about this. And she has her notebook. And she goes, in the past 3 weeks, you've done this, you've done that, you've done that. And she lists all these things. She's like, this isn't bad luck. All of this happened long before the chain letter. You're just clumsy.
Yes. Correlation is not causality. This is at the heart of so many arguments, whether you're talking about, just so many things in politics and science, whatever. It's it's just that Occam's razor thing of no, a lot of times you're adding a narrative onto something that's even simpler than you're making it out to be.
It's not bad luck from a chain letter. You're just clumsy.
Yeah. It's literally just same as it ever was. But in terms of tracking the trope, like I said, we get that same arc of the sort of skeptic rolling their eyes at the chain letter, and then the sort of series of unfortunate events that happens when you ignore it. And then again, like the facts of life, it ends up being beside the point, the facts of life ended up being about Mrs. Garrett and the girls taking responsibility. This ended up being about Tim going from a man must face every challenge to a man must learn his limitations.
Right.
And the chain letter is, just sort of a fun little sitcom-y gimmick, basically, to kind of hang on to the episode.
Yeah, to give a reason for all the silly, crazy things that are kind of constantly happening to Tim. And so then it ends with this little, they're trying to revisit the boxing lesson between the two of them, and this time they have boxing gloves, and every single time he's like, all right, you're not going to be able to get a hit in, here's what you gotta do, and she's like, oh hey Randy, and then boop, she taps him, and then she's like, every single time he tries, she just distracts him, and he falls for it. Every time. He's like, well, no distractions. You can't try to distract me. She's like, okay, I won't. Oh my gosh, my hair. And he's like, oh no. She taps him. She's like, gotcha again.
Yeah. It's funny. What I would say is in terms of their relationship, we get a lot of sort of nice, warm
They're super
flirtiness.
Cute and flirty. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Just like we were saying the Seavers were in the Growing Pains episode. But on the other hand, her performance, or it's not even the performance per se, just the casting of her, just the way she is and the way she talks, this more than any other episode, I found myself just going what an odd choice. This lady She really sells the mom part. I'll put it that way.
Well, exactly. So her whole story as an actress, I don't know if it was like the same kind of thing as like what they did with The Office, where they like wouldn't let them get their Hollywood glow ups. They like had to keep their, stained teeth like the rest of us and, not too much makeup and everything. Patricia Richardson on this show, the minute this show ended, she went and had like full mommy makeover, body, liposuction, tummy tuck, breast lift, face done. And it was, and I sort of vaguely remember, and I haven't looked this up, but I have this sort of vague recollection from like the time when that show ended that this was it was this big deal. She's like, oh yeah, I couldn't do this for all these years because I was playing this, Midwestern mom. I wasn't supposed to be like Hollywood gorgeous, but I'm ready to be hot and I've got the money to be hot, so I'm buying hot.
Yeah, she didn't really go on to be in a lot of stuff acting wise after that. But yeah, I don't mean even what she looks like per se. I just mean like her whole, whatever that regional accent is, her whole sort of slowed down way of talking. She just has this like, Tim, I thought we decided.
Well, it's not even that. It's folksy, not drawly.
No, you're right. It's folksy, but it's also, she's just like, even though they're having fun and I like what's going on with their relationship, she doesn't convey any sense of like spunk or any like youthful energy. Like she very much, for better or worse, she's like an old soul to me.
That's interesting. And I was thinking that was more to do with like the weird, oversized shoulder paddock tunics they had her in.
Those things don't help to be sure. But I feel like you could put somebody in the same outfit and just somebody with a different vibe to them would play this a little differently. And to me, she just reads as very like matronly and school marmy.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's why I feel like there was this thing of that. Like, I feel like there were some character choices made and she was purposefully like keeping in a certain way because it was like, let me glow up.
All right, moving on to... Okay, that was from our Chain Letters podcast. Now we're going to move on to our Shoplifting podcast. But first, I've got some questions about the acting career of the man who originated the role of Al Borland, Mr. Richard Karn. Now, Richard didn't have a huge movie career, but he was in some films, that might be using the word a little bit broadly, but there is...
Direct to video. He plays the dad in some Olsen twins movie.
The movies I'm about to talk about were almost definitely direct to video entries. He did take part in a movie franchise. I think at least one of these movies did play in movie theaters, but Richard Karn was not involved with that one. He was involved in a sequel. We're talking about a franchise here that has many sequels. I'm going to ask you to try to guess what franchise it was. He first joined up in the year 2002, right, where he was in, I believe, the fourth entry in this franchise. He played the role of Patrick Fram, which he then reprised 2 times, in 2006 and in 2008.
Can I ask a yes or no question?
Yeah, but let's just get the starting parameters. So he was in 3 different entries in this franchise that had a lot of sequels. I don't even know, honestly, how many. Starting in 2002, 2006, and 2008, in which he played the role of Patrick Fram. Okay.
So this movie, the first one or the first 2 of this franchise, was it in theaters?
Let me see. The original entry in this series definitely was a feature film that played in movie theaters. I will give you the extra clue that it was a live-action film made by Walt Disney Pictures. It came out in 1997.
Okay.
And yeah. Oh, I will even tell you this. Just by looking here at the plot description, because this is a film I have not seen, I do see that this movie concerns a 12-year-old Josh Fram.
Okay.
All right.
The first one was in 97, you said?
Oh. Yes, and it looks like...
Is this Spy Kids?
No, that's a pretty good guess, but not Spy Kids. Spy Kids, of course, the film by Robert Rodriguez, I've seen many times. That's actually pretty good. The second film was also released in theaters in 1998, again, before Richard Karn's involvement, and then the rest are all direct-to-video.
Okay. So, did any one of his co-stars from Home Improvement star in the original?
Almost definitely not.
Okay. Gosh, I don't think I know what this is. Is it like a Herbie? Like with a Herbie redo?
You're getting, it's not a remake of an old thing, but you're starting to get in the right
Well, because they
ballpark.
did. They remade the, or they made new Herbies with Lindsay Lohan, and then I wasn't sure if they continued. What about like a Shaggy Dog? They did
Getting warmer.
They did redos of those. Well, what about, did he take over the Charles Grodin role in Beethoven? Or again, new Beethovens?
You're on the right track. You're definitely on the right track. But what if Beethoven wasn't just, a funny dog that got into mischief? What if he actually had skills that could really be applied lucratively to something that people would be really interested to see an animal like that do?
Is it like Underdog?
No.
Lucrative dog.
What would people just be like, oh my God, what if a dog could do that and in a professional capacity? Wouldn't that be quite a film?
Is this that dog lawyer movie where the dog's like a lawyer? No, that was the Shaggy Dog. He was a lawyer.
Many sequels to this. This was an enduring straight-to-DVD staple that covered
I don't think I know this movie.
All kinds of different activities within one general sort of heading. What else could I say?
You can just tell me the title.
All right. No. All right. I guess I'm just going to tell you. Richard Karn had the honor of portraying Patrick Pham in 2002 in the film Air Bud 7th Inning Fetch, and then went on to reprise the role in 2006's Air Buddies and 2008's Snow Buddies.
I did not. Wait, didn't they also have a Cuba Gooding Jr. Snow Dogs movie?
Cuba Gooding, yes, that's a separate thing. That's a slightly more legitimate movie with Cuba Gooding Jr., also I think from the fine folks at the Walt Disney Company, about a guy.
Right. So they have two different Snow Dog movies, one of which has they play basketball,
no,
or have we just fully definitely moved away from the basketball?
It gradually
thing now.
mutates from Air Bud to Air Bud and his buddies to just the buddies, and it goes from I think it moves away from basketball quickly because the second one is called Golden Retriever. So that tells you he's like a football guy. And then the one where Al starred in, it's 7th Inning Fetch. So I'm no jockhead or anything, but I think that indicates baseball, right?
Is it baseball? I don't think jockhead is a word.
Anyway, yeah, well, you know what? That was so exciting that I think I'm just going to go ahead and save the other career trivia for after our next segment.
It was so exciting that I couldn't get the answer.
So, okay, now we're going to listen to a segment from our shoplifting episode. This was one of our rare chances where we talked about the Partridge Family. Remember, the little redheaded kid got mixed up in a shoplifting situation. We had the Facts of Life.
Yes.
Small Wonder, the shoplifter episode of that.
Again, the Facts of Life. And that's 2 Facts of Life.
They do seem to pair up. Yeah.
In a row.
And Small Wonder, of course, was an episode where, little what's-her-face took everything exactly literally and all kinds of crazy misadventures ensued. And our final segment in that was about the season 4 episode, Marked Man from Home Improvement. This is that. All right, let's finish up with Home Improvement.
Season 4, episode 25, A Marked Man.
Yeah, so we've talked about Home Improvement a handful of times. I feel like this doesn't always go so well. And I have to say, this cold open, I was like... I had a bad feeling about this. It sparked a whole sort of research journey that I've been on for the last
Oh, yeah, because it's a real
minutes.
person.
Yes, this is a real person and a real phenomenon, exactly.
I saw it in the credits that it said, like, the guy, like, the Steve that she was calling.
The 3 of them
was a
are
real person.
themselves. The cold open of this Home Improvement episode is about the winner of a husband calling contest coming on ToolTime as a guest. It's this very large woman who gets on stage, and she's won a contest for being able to basically screech her husband's name as loud as possible.
Well, so it's a state fair thing, right? So at state fairs, they have the like pig calling contest where you're like, Suey, and they like the big screaming sound. Well, so they do the same thing as like a joke, right? It's a funny kind of thing. And they have the husband calling contest. And so she, instead of saying Suey, she's like, Steve.
Okay. So I guess we should back up again and mention that I have no familiarity with any cultural things to do with outside of the New York tri-state area. So I was not familiar with this idea of the pig calling thing. What I took it as initially, even without seeing the thing in the credits, I got the sense initially that this might be a real thing because it was one of those sort of truth is stranger than fiction kind of things. Why would they make this up? But it just kind of played to me like Tim Allen is bringing on a woman who has won the contest for being the most annoying woman. And it had this sort of Jerry Springer vibe to it.
He even says, as he, like, before he introduced her, like, oh, I can ignore any woman, anytime, anywhere, as long as there's sports on.
Yeah, exactly. So there's this thing just very much in that men are from Mars, women are from Venus kind of attitude we had in the 90s. And that's so critical to Tim Allen's comedy that even though much of it is self-effacing and it's saying, oh, we're the big dummies, it is very much men are like this, women are like this. These are the dynamics of every marriage.
Yeah, they had to get a shitty part in to this episode because this is one of the very few episodes of Home Improvement where Tim learns his lesson really and truly at the end, apologizes to his son for screaming at him, shares how he, like, why he was feeling that way and why it set him off. And it was like, oh, you can relate to other men. You just can't relate to women.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah. And so we'll get to all that. To close the loop on this husband calling thing, I did have to find out after I saw that thing in the credits, Deb Selvey as herself or whatever. The joke in the cold open is that Tim can put himself in front of a television set that's playing sports, and this woman is just going to screech in his ear for like a minute straight. And then Al goes like, okay, Tim, so what did the announcer say during the game? And it kind of seems like Tim didn't realize he was going to have to answer that or something.
No, he was doing that face because he couldn't hear
and
Al
that's
ask the question.
Yeah, and that's the joke for the rest of the episode is that Tim can't hear well. Ha ha ha. Start the theme song. But yeah, Deb Selvey. She's the real winner of the husband calling contest from like 1993.
Amazing.
So I looked this up and learned all about it. And yeah, it was, it still goes on, I think, to this day. I have an article here about the one from 95. So this is like a couple years later.
Well, this episode is 95.
Okay, but this is a couple years after when this lady won. It describes the performance that won. This time, it says, most women come up with bizarre calls, screeching out their husband's name in as obnoxious a tone as possible. But this woman, dressed in a straw hat, chicken slippers, and red apron decorated with barnyard animals, put on an act. She ran into the bar, sat on a chamber pot, pulled out a newspaper, and simulated a bodily function. Then she realized she had no toilet paper, at which point she began to screech and scream for her husband to bring the desired tissue while she ran around the barn with the chamber pot clinging to her buttocks. I read another article about
That's
a one...
amazing! So they're like skits.
Yeah, another one was a Ice Ice Baby parody. So yeah, it's like you have to kind of go above and beyond in this husband calling contest to win. It makes me feel less queasy about this bit on the show, knowing that this was more just something that would obviously be on brand for Tim Allen to be aware of and to work into his show. And like you said, we get on to the rest of the episode, which is going to be a more sincere thing, where we've got another kid that steals something.
That's right. So the three boys, what's the oldest one's name? I always forget the oldest one's name.
Randy is Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
And he's
Mark
in the middle.
Is the youngest one.
Brad is the oldest. Yeah. So you got Brad, Randy, and Mark in that order.
Mullet, and Mullet.
Yeah, Mullet, and Mullet. And they are hanging out in the hardware shop while their dad is there to pick something up.
Yeah, established immediately that Al likes to keep meticulous inventory of everything.
Yes.
While Harry, the owner, is all wild and loose and he doesn't care.
Right. He's like, what, 161 nails? Who cares? And he dumps another bucket of nails like on top of the ones that Al already counted. And so, yeah, Tim gets his hacksaw blade and there's all the jokes because he can't hear. And the boys are looking at this really awesome Swiss Army knife and they're like, man, if I had that knife, I'd be so cool. This knife is so neat. Imagine all the things I could do if I had it. Oh, yeah. They're just like, they think the knife's so cool. And then they all leave, and Al notices the knife is missing.
Yeah.
So then the next day at work, he says to Tim, he's like, hey, I just want you to know, after you guys left, we closed up the store. Nobody came in after you, and that the knife that the boys were looking at wasn't there anymore.
Yeah, he says the knife the boys were admiring is gone, and of course Al approaches it with characteristic sensitivity, and Tim is all defensive. He says, maybe Harry stole it, and Al is like, money. Yeah, why would he steal it from himself for the insurance money, which I thought was very funny, and then Al starts talking to him about the time that he got caught stealing and eating a cookie from his mom.
They were at the grocery store, and his mom had walked away to go get the appetite suppressant, the children's appetite suppressant.
Cannot have a scene with Al pass without a joke about him being a fatso, which I'll just say again, Al is an absolute snack. He is very, very mildly overweight for his age.
He's got a pot belly.
Yeah, but I would honestly even disagree with that characterization. He's just like kind of a stocky guy. He doesn't come across as like someone that just drank too much beer and like has a big gut.
Oh, he looks like a young version of Santa, though.
He's burly. I think that... I do like the idea of him as a young version of Santa. I really wish Richard Karn at this time had played that rather than casting Tim Allen as Santa Claus in 27 movies.
Hey, that's right. That's a good point. That would have been a better casting. Anyway, this will be another fan favorite episode because everybody loves it when Jay goes off about his Al Borland crush.
It's unfortunate Richard Karn did not have the box office pull at this time that Tim Allen did.
Tim Allen did.
He's not fat. that is all I'm saying.
So his mom walks away to go get the children's appetite suppressant. He sees the cookie sitting there. He takes it off the shelf. He eats it before his mom gets back, and that's it. And he has felt guilty about it ever since. And like, he's like Danny Partridge, right? Like, he is overcome with guilt. He never got
his award ceremony.
Yeah, exactly. He was overcome with guilt. He went back to the store and he apologized and all of that. But his whole life, he has just known, like, oh, he's like you too, where it's like you do one thing wrong and you're like, I will never do anything wrong again. Whereas I'm like, how can I get away with it better the next time?
Yeah, but he's telling this to Tim in the spirit of like, hey, look, boys do these things. It doesn't mean that they're bad. It's this thing that, we all sort of figure out morality.
You have the temptation, you have the impulse control, and you have to learn it. And it's okay. It's a lesson to be learned. And I learned a valuable lesson that day I stole a cookie, and you'll learn a valuable lesson, whatever your kids, whichever one of your kids did this will learn a valuable lesson. Yeah. And so Tim is, not happy about it, but he goes home and he tells Jill, and he's like, boys, get in here. And the boys are like, I didn't do it. And then Mark just kind of like, the youngest boy starts hiding behind them as they're talking.
I think this scene is pretty funny. I think we get a lot of good stuff here. First, before the boys even come in, when Tim is explaining this to Jill beforehand and saying, look, I denied it, but Al says that the Swiss Army knife is missing. He goes, that's the reason why the Swiss Army is the force that they are today. I thought that was kind of a funny line. And then when he's having this talk, when the two parents are having this talk with the boys, and they're sort of accusing each other, and Randy is saying Brad saying is Randy, and they're going like, well, Brad stole your, that car magazine with the hot ladies on the front, and Tim goes, what? The bevy of beauties from Chevy edition? I thought that was good.
Yeah, and then Brad's like, well, Randy stole Mom's Victoria's Secret catalog, and Tim was like, hey, that's mine too. Yeah. And the audience is laughing, of course, and then slowly Mark just starts backing up behind the brothers because no one's interrogating him because no one thinks it's him.
No, because he never does anything wrong. That's his dynamic on the show. Exactly. He's always picked on, and the two of them get into monkey shine.
And they do. Like, those two boys would be the ones that would be naughty like that because they are the naughty ones and he's not. And so they're like, and then they repeat the, callback joke that Tim had earlier. Oh, well, maybe Harry stole it himself for the insurance money.
Yeah, I like that. But yeah, it is sort of like, if we compare them to the, very funny forced casualness that Danny Bottaducci and the other ones have, the Randy and Brad have the convincing casual attitude of innocent kids. Right. Like they can kind
Mark's
of tell.
Mark's like, do, nobody see me.
But the scene is inconclusive. They have the conversation and nothing comes out, and the parents are kind of like, all right.
Yeah, and they don't even really interrogate Mark, right? Like they ask the two others one at a time, and then they get all mad that they're even being accused because they didn't do anything, and nobody ever looks at Mark. He just fades into the background, and then they all go back outside to play ball.
And there's a subsequent scene with Tim and Jill in the bedroom. Do two of them share a bedroom or something?
3 of them. They all three. Okay. They have lofted. I mean, it's like this one of these huge, sitcom bedrooms, and the boys all kind of have different lofted beds around the room.
I just think it's funny that in this world they live in a suburban home out in God knows where.
Right.
And your 3 boys, 2 of which are teenagers, you're making share a room.
Just so you can have a guest room.
But I'm just thinking in comparison to what we're always talking about with the metropolitan shows at exactly this time. Like this family, he's a TV host. Like they can afford to give
Ohio,
the kids.
But they only have a 3-bedroom house.
Yeah, exactly. Those kids don't need to be sharing a bedroom at this age. It is more the frugality of Home Improvement, the TV show, I think.
Set. So they go to put the laundry away, and they're still discussing I can't believe the boys would lie, but it really doesn't seem like they're lying. I wonder, gosh. And so then Tim immediately is starting starting to snoop in the bedroom when Jill's putting the laundry away. And she's like, please don't do that. My mom used to do that to me. Like, it's really, it really is a violation of privacy. Like, the boys, we trust the boys. We believe the boys. Like, let's not do that.
I wanted to pause on this. Was this a thing for you, the snooping? This was one of those things that as, you know, I made friends out in the world and you see the sort of different like household cultures that different families have. Both the snooping, the putting away, the laundry for them, like that was something that I sort of learned, like, oh, there's other kids that like their parents clean their rooms for them.
Yeah,
they organize things like that. I was one where like there would be no snooping, but there was no access at all. Like once I was past the age of like 8 or 9 or something, it was like my room was my room. Like my mom would do my laundry for me, but I don't know if she put it in a little stack somewhere or something, but it was up to me to, you know, I presided over all aspects of my room. Definitely as a teenager, there would definitely be no snooping. But again, they just wouldn't step foot inside my room.
Do you think that there was no snooping, or they just did it so well that you didn't know?
No, I think for one thing, I was a mark my whole life. Like I was never doing anything wrong.
No, you're marks, honey.
And I think my whole family, frankly, had the sort of non-confrontational attitude of like, they wouldn't want to find out if I was up to something. Yeah, if I had like drugs hidden in my sock drawer or something. So yeah,
your
I don't
most
think
recent screenplay.
Yeah, I don't think we had any snooping.
Yeah, I mean, same. Like it wasn't like it was all my own domain. I think if my parents did ever snoop, they did it so well that I didn't know. I definitely, like, my mom did do my laundry and she would leave it up on a pile, in a pile on my bed. So, and like, in terms of like cleaning my room, I was constantly in trouble because my room was always a mess. So no, my parents didn't clean my room. But yeah, I remember one time my mom and I got in a really awful fight and I like wrote this letter, like I was gonna, like, it was like a diary or it was like to her, but I was never gonna give it to her. But then I sort of passive aggressively left it out on my bed, like right when you open the door, like where you would see. And
it's like the opposite of a suicide note. Right. It's like a murder note.
Right. I was just like, I'm going to leave this letter that sort of is like a little bit, you know, like written for dramatic effect kind of thing. I left it out so my mom would see it, and she saw it and she was like, I wasn't looking in your room for anything. It was just there. And I saw my name. And so I read it and she was so apologetic. And I was like, I didn't tell her at the time because I was like, yeah, be apologetic. But like, yeah, like I totally left it out so she'd find it because I was so mad at her.
Yeah, this is something that is just like different with everyone, I think. And in this case, they seem to have this dynamic where, yes, they are allowed access into the kids' drawers. Like Jill would say, oh, my mom's ruse was to snoop and then claim to be putting away my underwear.
Right, but in a desk drawer, so it didn't make any sense. Yeah. So she was like, I don't want to turn into my mother. And then Tim makes a gross face like, I don't know your mother. And so, you know, he kind of stops snooping, and then she goes, Mark, how many times do I have to tell him to not put his dirty clothes back in with his clean clothes? And she picks up the jeans that are dirty, that have gone back in the drawer, and flops them over her arm, and then something falls out of the pocket, blunk, and it clunks on the ground, and there's the Swiss Army knife.
Yep, the telltale Swiss Army knife. And then this is going to sort of change a little bit into like a how do we parent the kids thing, because Tim's reaction, I guess there's like... Yeah,
they don't even take a moment to discuss it. He just like bolts downstairs ready to like wring the kid's neck.
He does like a few seconds of the Mrs. Garrett, I'm going to not let you know that I know and give you enough rope to hang yourself with. Right. But he can't hold out for for more than that. And then he just goes off, oh, you're a sneaky little thief. Like,
he calls him a rotten
kid.
Thief, yeah.
Yeah, he's just like, he's truly offended. Like, this is not, the kind of person you should be.
Yeah.
And Mark is, sort of, it's unprecedented, I guess, for him to get in so much trouble.
Out. He totally freaks out, runs upstairs, starts crying.
And so that leads to this sort of Jill and Tim fight about, was this the right way? Did Tim overreact?
And he's like, you underreact. And she's like, I didn't even have time to do any reacting because you're doing this. And now you're saying he's grounded for a month and you go off to work every day. And I'm the one that has to be the police. So you get to be the bad guy, but I'm the one that's got to get stuck at home with him. We need to have these conversations before we make these parenting decisions. And and he's just so angry. He's not having any of it. She's like, fine, whatever. You're a pain in the ass. And she's like, I'm going to go talk to Mark. And so she goes upstairs to try to smooth things over and get him to talk about what happened and why did he do it and whatever. Yeah. And he is not ready to talk.
No, he's just sitting there being all mopey.
Playing a Game Boy, by the way, which would be the first thing that you're grounded from.
Yeah, I really... it gives me no pleasure to say this, but I think I might have to be with Tim Allen on this one.
Not the screaming.
Of course, there's a medium in between, but I actually think I would err on his side of consequences versus her, super touchy-feely, almost kind of apologizing to him. Yeah, continuing the privileges with the video games and everything. And sort of having this attitude of oh, are you ready to talk to me about this? A couple random observations in this scene. Jill and Mark have the same haircut. I noticed when the two of them are sitting next to each other, the straight on two shot of the two of them. Little Mark basically has the haircut of a middle-aged woman circa 1994. Yeah, kind of like Amanda Beards from Married with Children, the Marcy Darcy.
Marcy Darcy.
Ever since that time we were watching Friends and they were all on the bed and you remarked how you liked seeing them in the socks because...
or bare feet. They had actual bare feet because everybody wears shoes in television shows.
I was going to mention before we even got to this, just watching Tim walk around his house in these, high-top sneakers and the jeans, the shirt tucked into his jeans with the belt and everything. You mentioned I wear sweatpants around the house. That seems normal. It started seeming weird to me to be watching this guy dressed like he was going to teach shop class, in his own house at 9 p.m. And now this scene that we're talking about with Mark and Jill having the heart-to-heart in his room, I'm noticing he's lying on the bed on
with his
stomach.
Sneakers on.
Yeah, boots. He's got the sort of brown...
Yeah, like 90s hiking boots that we wore kind of all the time
exactly,
anyway. Yeah,
exactly.
Like Timberlands or whatever.
Yes, that kind of shoe. Jesus, your mom isn't going to yell at you about that? About wearing boots in your bed? Yeah. And so that scene ends with her going well, okay, I guess we'll talk next time. And so, that's when I'm kind of I don't know, Jill, you need to have a little backbone.
Yeah,
also.
well, I feel like she would have because she does in other episodes.
Yeah.
And so I think this is just now she's trying to smooth it over and see if he'll even talk because he got, grounded for a month, told he was a rotten child and a dirty little thief. And now they're never going to know why he did what he did, right? Yeah,
which I will say, since you mentioned that, this is the only one where, of the episodes we're talking about, where, it's not a present for somebody. There's not direct peer pressure.
Right.
It is just, he wanted to be cool and he wanted to have it.
Right, and we do find out later, he eventually does, tell his reasoning, and he tells it to Al, because he and Al have a heart-to-heart?
Yeah, I guess before we get there, just quickly we get a Wilson scene. And I think I complained about this in one of our earlier Home Improvements ones.
The kite and the thing they did with the kite? I thought this was kind of good.
As an idea, it's fine. What they're doing is Wilson is flying a kite, and so so he's holding up the like spool of string thing. He's holding that over his face. So you can have a camera angle that sort of bifurcates the fence. So you've got a straight shot of Wilson looking right at you, but it's okay because he's holding up this big spool of string from his kite, and that's covering the bottom half of his face. That's fine in most of the scene, but the first shot is this wide shot that's up above looking down on him, and they just don't arrange it right, and his string thing is not covering his face.
No,
you can see it.
But it's so far away that you can't really see it.
I think in our modern age of HD, this is Disney Plus. If this was Small Wonder, if we were watching this on a crappy YouTube dub that's been overcompressed 10 times over.
This is what they were doing for 1995.
Well,
you couldn't see it in 95.
They should have thought ahead, because we're watching this on Disney Plus, taken directly. This was shot on film. This is nicely produced ABC show. And so you can see his face clear as day. And all he had to do was hold up that thing a little bit higher in that shot. And I
thought you were going to complain because in order to keep his hands like steady and balanced at the place it needed to be, he didn't just like rest his arm on the fence. He wrapped his pinky around the top of the fence so that he would know where to keep his hands steady. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, you got to think that's like a take 4 thing when he's moving it around too much.
His arm is so tired.
And they're going like, no, I don't know what that actor's name is. But
his
buddy,
name is Earl Hindman.
Earl, come on, we could see your face all over the place. I know we just filmed it directly in that wide shot, but, this time they'll be able to see it.
Well, so in the zoom out shot, when they went back to the wide shot at the end of the scene, they actually used the kite itself to be the cover.
That's what they should have done in the first place. But anyway, it's your standard Wilson scene. He quotes Nietzsche saying something about the idea of like he who steals, just amplifies his own negative feelings or something, kind of like the crime is its own punishment kind of thing. Yeah, then we're off to the races. We get the call from a hardware store. So repeating the whole subtrope from Partridge Family. Where is Mark?
Right,
he doesn't
come home. He doesn't come home from school. He doesn't show up to the bus with his brothers. They come home without him, and they're like, we don't know where he is. Yeah. Like, I don't know about you, but I had a little brother. If my little brother was supposed to meet me at the bus stop for school, or we rode our bikes to school, like when he was supposed to meet me at the bike rack and he didn't show up, there would be no like, I'm going to go home and call my parents. It would be like, alert everyone, my brother isn't here. We're all freaking out. These two ne'er-do-wells are like, man, that little one we don't give a shit about.
You get the impression they probably just ditch him all the time. So like they normally don't know.
Which is what we then find out. So they call her, they're calling all around. He's not anywhere. He's not at the pet store. He's not his friends. He's not anywhere. So then they get a call from the hardware store and he's there. And he's having this heart-to-heart with Al, and Al tells him the cookie story. And then I can't remember if he tells Al or if he tells Tim and Jill when they get there that the reason that he did it is because he wanted Randy and Brad to think he was cool. And he thought, maybe if I have this knife, they'll play with me more and they'll think I'm cool.
Yeah, because they said straight up, like, that knife is really cool. Anybody who has that would be our hero.
Yeah.
Tim shows up and sort of gives him the heart-to-heart of, like, Tim considers it, he's, like, personally insulted when the boys have a moral failing because it means that he's a bad parent.
That, but also that you stole from our friends.
Oh, yeah.
Like these, Harry and Al are family. Yes. And the hardware store is like, our second home. Why would you ever steal from there?
Yeah, exactly. And Mark doesn't have much to say for himself. We've already established this is the flimsiest motivation of any of them. And yeah, it is just like his immature sense of morality.
Yeah,
just not really knowing right from wrong. We get, like you said, Al tells him his whole, origin story of stealing the cookie. That's kind of like it ends with the gag of Jill snooping in Randy's room.
In all of their rooms. She is actually putting away underwear this time. And then she comes upstairs. She finds Tim snooping again. And he's like, no, I'm not snooping. I'm just collecting all my magazines so I can have them back. And he goes, you want to see what they're hiding from you? And hands her a recipe. And she's like, why would they hide my tuna and lima bean casserole recipe? And I start cracking up because I was like, okay, that's something Jay would steal from his mom, a tuna and lima bean casserole recipe, and not feel bad about it.
And it just reminded me of the diet thing from last week, how everything, just like diets are tied to like your physical copy of the document.
Right.
It's the same thing with a recipe. Once you hide the recipe, she'll never make that food again.
That's right. She's not going to be able to do it. She's got too many recipes. She doesn't memorize any of them.
Yeah.
And so then she's kind of like, he leaves and she's like, I wonder what other recipes they're hiding from me. And she starts going through the drawer, and then Randy comes in and catches her, and then she does turn into her mother. She's like, I was just putting away your underwear. And he's like, in the desk drawer? And she's like, yeah, I learned it from my mother. It's good for when you're studying and you realize you're not wearing any underwear. Yeah. I mean, that awkward lie was so much better than the bad, awkward lying in Small Wonder, but it's the same idea.
It's still sitcom-y. It's still like, you, the audience, understand that I'm lying, but this person isn't going to know that.
But the kid does know, and that's what makes that one funny. That's what makes that one work, is that he's looking at her like, okay, Mom, like, you're so full of it, and that's why that one's way better. But can we just kind of talk about all 4 episodes right now? Because...
That was from our shoplifting episode. We are now going to finish up with the Save Our Hangout podcast, where we talked about home improvement, saving the hardware store. But first, we're going to have a little more education about the life and times of thespian, actor, entertainer Richard Karn. Right now, I'm going to tell you that Richard Karn appeared in 3 other sitcoms that we have covered on this podcast. Obviously,
as a guest star?
Obviously not the episodes that we covered, but of all the sitcoms that we've talked about in the sitcom study, he has appeared in 3 of them. Now, I'm going to tell you one of them. He played himself as the host of Family Feud in an episode of Watching Ellie, right? You'll remember that we watched the pilot episode of Watching Ellie when we did our Julia Louis-Dreyfus career spotlight. And so...
that was her shortest lived
that was the
sitcom.
one that had...
That was the one where she was a jazz
and
singer,
it had that like documentary type format where it was almost like a camera crew following her,
And they did it in real time. It was like the hour or the half hour and when they would go to commercial, that time would continue to tick. It was like 24 before
exactly.
24.
And so there was an episode of that show where she goes on Family Feud and Richard Karn plays himself because, of course, he was a host of Family Feud after he played Al Borland in
That's right.
Home Improvement.
He wasn't he the one that like broke the curse? So now Steve Harvey was able to be the host of the Family Feud and not end up dying in some
I'm not really aware
form or
of
fashion.
The curse. I was never a huge Family Feud guy, to be honest. And I don't really have the best relationship with Steve Harvey. I find him a little annoying. So. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
What about Kenan Thompson's impression?
Yes, no, I like that. In the year 1995, so this was concurrent.
Oh, so during his run.
This was concurrent with him playing Al Borland. Richard Karn played the role of Victor in an episode of the 3rd season of another sitcom. That episode was called This Little Piggy. Do you have any idea what sitcom that we have talked about multiple times might have aired an episode in 1995 called This Little Piggy in which Richard Karn portrayed the character of Victor?
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. We can narrow this down, right? This was 1995. Was this sitcom, was it a long running sitcom?
Good question. I would say yes, but let me give you the details. This sitcom ran from 1993 to the year 2000.
Okay, so 7 seasons or so, 6 seasons. Was this sitcom centered on a family?
There certainly is a family in it, but I'm going to say no.
Okay. Was this a comedian-driven sitcom, like
not as in a
ToolTime
stand-up comic? Or in fact,
okay.
I'm just going to say no altogether.
No. All right. So you're saying that there is a family in it, but not...
This is a show it's one of these shows that has a clear main character, and we get their family, we get their friends, we get the place that they spend their day with, we get like the whole picture.
Gotcha. The whole shebang. So like a Drew Carey show.
Yes, but with an important difference about that main character.
Is it his race?
No.
Okay. Is it the important difference about the main character? Is it his job?
Well, this character does not have a job because...
Ooh. The main character doesn't have a job because...
What kind of a show... There's lots of shows about characters and their dealings, but some of them aren't in the position to have jobs because they are...
dead?
Yes, but the show is not Walking Dead. It is not a show in which the main character is a not
zombie.
Alive.
Okay, I was thinking like ghosts. Is he retired? Is the main character retired?
No, he's the opposite of retired.
He's a child?
Yes.
The main character is a child, and we've talked about this show is the main character a girl?
No.
Okay, so a boy child as the main character of a 90s sitcom. A boy child is the main character of a 90s sitcom. Is it like Parker Lewis?
No,
that didn't
Lewis.
Run that long though.
Right, this is a more popular and definitely a more. I will say that even today, this for better or worse has cultural relevance. People talk about this.
People still talk about this. Wait, is it a show that was on like Nickelodeon or Disney?
No, this was a network show.
Network show. The main character is a kid. Oh, is it Boy Meets World?
It is Boy Meets World. And in season 3 of Boy Meets World, there was an episode called This Little Piggy in which Sean, Corey, and Topanga end up getting into a heated argument after Sean takes it upon himself to adopt a homeless pig and bring it back to the apartment. Unfortunately, this doesn't get into what Victor has to do with all this. I guess Victor maybe was like the farmer that sold him the pig or something.
It was a homeless pig.
That is true.
Maybe it was the farmer that they sell it to at the end. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Now, a few years later, in 2001, so after his stint as Al Borland was over, Richard Karn appeared in a season 4 episode of another sitcom that we have covered.
Okay.
Now, this one...
What year was this?
This was in 2005.
And this was season 4.
Or no, I'm sorry. This is wrong. This was 2001.
2001, and it's season 4. So it started in like 97. Okay.
That is correct. The show started in 97 in their 4th season. There was an episode which aired on October 16th, 2001, in which Richard Karn portrayed the role of Theo. He was Theo. Now, the episode title is going to be a little bit helpful for you. So before you even hear that, do you have a guess?
If the episode title is going to be helpful, then it's going to be something like 2001. It's going to be something like one of those ones that, like Always Sunny has the like same, or Friends has the like repetitive titles.
It's not like that. It's not a title format.
Okay.
It's more just that this title might get you thinking about the goings on in this show.
Got it. Was this a network sitcom?
Yes.
Was it a family, like centered on a family?
There definitely is there are multiple families, but I'm just going to cut to the chase and say this is more of a group of friends sitcom.
More of like a group of friends. Blah, 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 blah. So more of a group of friends, early 2000s. Is this like New Girl?
No, that would be a little later. I will say this is a multicam. This is your classic, laugh track and little, two-dimensional set type sitcom.
Okay. Multiple families.
Definitely two sets of parents in this one.
Were they all in the same house though?
No.
No. Okay. Goodness. Started in 97 and there were kids then if there were two sets of parents. Yeah.
Yes, this is a show about teenagers. I will say.
It's a show about teenagers. So are the main characters the kids?
Yes.
The main characters again are the kids. He just liked these kid shows. Let's see. The main characters are the kids. It started in 97. How long did it run?
This television program ran from 1998 to 2006.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I wish I could show you this picture of him, but that would give it away too.
Oh my gosh. So is it some sort of like, if the title would give it away and the like picture would give it away, were they all like, did they wear some sort of outfits that made this like a...
No, I'm looking right now at a picture of Richard Karn portraying this character. And let me just say that Theo, this character he's portraying, maybe not quite the straight arrow that Al Borland was. Maybe he got up to a little bit of the old wacky tobacco once in a while, if you know what I mean. Looking a little shaggy.
Is this like a Freaks and Geeks? That only ran for one season, though.
But you're getting warmer.
Goodness. I am like drawing a blank on a group of teenagers, and you said we've covered this, right? So,
yeah.
Group of teenagers. That was
you like this show more than me. This
late
was
90s
closer
sitcom.
to being one of your things. Yep.
My So-Called Life didn't run for that long.
No, and that was not a sitcom.
No, that's true. Yeah, that wasn't. You were saying it was a multicam.
I'm looking at a shot right now, this same picture, but even the way it's framed was very much part of this show's mise en scène, because this is essentially like the image I'm seeing of you in our Zoom call, because unlike normal, we are actually recording this over remote, and I'm looking at him staring straight at the camera as just a single shot, just himself, dead center, looking at the camera, and this was a thing that would happen all the time on this show.
That they would like talk right to the camera, or they'd look at the camera?
Yeah.
Oh, is it Malcolm in the Middle? No, that was just about a family.
No, this isn't a Zach Morris thing where they talk to the camera like Ferris Bueller style.
Yeah.
This is more like a Jonathan Demme movie where they just shoot it, almost as though they're maybe kind of like, I don't know, sitting around in a circle or something.
Oh my God, it's freaking the 70s show!
That is correct. Richard Karn played Theo in an episode called...
And that's why the costume would have given it away, because it was period. But now, what is the title? Why would the title have given it away?
The title of this particular episode is Bye Bye Basement. And
immediately I would have thought about that 70s show Basement. Okay, I get you.
Apparently in this episode, Hyde moves back with the Foremans. Without telling why, Kitty decides to redo the basement and hires Leo and his cousin Theo as contractors. Theo is Richard Karn.
Hey, there you go.
Meanwhile,
he's picking up the old mantle.
Yeah, Eric and Donna break into an argument about redoing the basement and the promise ring. And so I'm guessing that Theo was a little bit of a pothead like the kids are, and he joined them in one of their sessions and got to sit in the circle with them because that's what this picture
That's what the camera angle is giving away.
Yes. All right, so now that we're a little bit more enlightened about Mr. Karn's career, we're going to listen to the Home Improvement...
And my really bad memory.
Yeah. We're going to listen to the Home Improvement segment from our Save Our Hangout episode. This was where we talked about Webster having to save his little greasy spoon diner. Charles had to save the pizza parlor, of course. And the Saved by the Bell kids had to save the Max. And we finished this one with the Home Improvement episode from Season 8, A Hardware Habit to Break. This is that discussion. Story.
Exactly.
So, fair enough. All right. Let's finish it off with Home Improvement.
Season 8, Episode 21, A Hardware Habit to Break.
Yeah, so now that we're well into the mid to late 90s, we have a clear...
This is 99,
All
so
right,
yes.
Late 90s. We've got a clear villain, right? Big businesses, chain stores, discount marts, right? This is You've Got Mail all over again.
Right. The big box hardware store has come to town, and they're pricing out anybody who wants to go to the local hardware store.
Yep.
But that's not the reason the place is closing. They're doing an okay business.
Yes, we've got, what's his name? Harry. This is our second Harry of the night, I guess. Mm-hmm. Harry, the proprietor of Harry's Hardware, which we've had a major sitcom study episode that involved Harry's Hardware because little Mark stole from them.
Yes, that's right.
In our shoplifting episode. Yeah,
little Mark, not so little anymore.
No, well, let's just not even address that yet. We're familiar with Hardware Harry or whatever as a hangout. Jesus, Hardware Harry, the hangout for the happy hooligans at ToolTime.
Home Improvement.
There we go. Okay. He's moving to Tucson with his wife. She's got
asthma.
She's got asthma. We later find out is a prolific cigar smoker, so that might be part of the reason. But so perfect storm. We've got Tool Barn. They're the conglomerate that's taken over, and we get all these references to the prices are too high here. I could get this cheaper at Tool Barn.
Yeah, but that's only later on. That's not at the
fair
beginning.
Enough.
That's once Tim buys him out and takes over, then the customer base starts dwindling.
Yeah, I feel like we get mentions dropped of Tool Barn throughout. And then, we have this thing with the wife moving to Tucson. So we have the gang here now. Season 8 of Home Improvement, so we're very far along here. Jonathan Taylor Thomas is nowhere to be found. Nope. He must be off filming one of his many highly celebrated films of the 1990s. Was it his version of...
This was when he went away to college, or no, his senior year of high school, the way they were able to kind of write him off the show. He's not in the credits, but he's in the credit sequence because they still have the pictures of the 3 boys in the credit sequence.
So he's just never around.
He's not in the credits at all anymore. They don't have his name.
But he's not in the show anymore.
Right. This season, I think this is the last season of this show. He, like you said, the way they wrote him off was that he was doing his senior year of high school abroad or something like that because he was, Tiger Beat famous.
Yeah. He was facing off against Macaulay Culkin for that box office,
Macaulay Culkin, no. He was definitely facing off because Macaulay Culkin was our age, so he was older. He was facing off against the Olsen twins for the, tween, teen.
There are certain, that's sort of like Dante's Peak volcano type thing with the similar movies. I feel like JTT and Macaulay even if they were separated by a few years, had that thing, like one of them had Man of the House with Chevy Chase and the other one had Getting Even with Dad. Like they're just, they both had similar like projects, and they both frankly petered out in terms of their movie careers in the 90s. But yeah, JTT, nowhere to be found. We've gone through God knows how many, sexy ToolTime girls. What we've got is this group of dudes hanging out at Hardware Harry's. Tim and Al, and I don't know who they are. We later sort of surmise that they're Tim's brothers.
Well, one of them, Marty, the guy who everybody keeps making fun of and he keeps making dumb comments.
Yes, the young looking guy.
That is the younger brother. Yes. And then the older brother we don't see at all. He's not hanging out with a group of friends at the beginning. He's an accountant, and we see him at the end. And because we're not like home improvement heads, we both at the end, when this, like, we get the three guys standing there together, Marty, Tim, and this guy Jeff, and they're like, oh, remember when we dug that big hole in the backyard? Yeah, Mom was so mad at us. And they're like having a three brothers moment, and I was like, wait, are these guys all brothers? I'm so confused.
Yes, and I still didn't think one of them was a brother,
but they are.
Yeah, this younger guy, we just, whatever, I just take it as, okay, we've got new friends now, because this younger guy really does seem like a pretty main part of this story.
Yeah, he's sort of established as like one of the buddies. And then you got a couple other, like you said, random guys hanging out, this Eddie guy and Benny.
There's a Benny. They're all incensed by the thought of their hangout becoming a nail salon, right? What's worse than a parking lot for a bunch of dudes that grunt and think that like buzzsaws are cool is that their hardware store is going to become a nail salon. They're, they can't stomach that idea. And so they're all kind of joking around, or not, joking isn't the right word.
They're all kvetching. Yeah. They're sitting around complaining, and they're like, why would we want to give over our awesome hardware store to a place where ladies sit on their asses and gossip all day? And then they looked at each other and they all got up off their stools.
But there's also this thing of like, these are a bunch of, not necessarily affluent, but a bunch of middle-class white guys in their 40s. And so there is a possibility.
Well, and two of them are on a TV show, so like they have some money.
Exactly. So there is this possibility of one of them maybe just like straight up buying it. And so there's a lot of debate about that.
Well, and Al is already a part owner. So Al is a 20% owner. Right. And so he's like, everyone's just like, Al, why don't you just buy him out? You work here part-time. You're already a part owner. There's no reason for you not to do this. And he pulls Tim aside and he's like, look, I would, except for I'm going to propose to Malady.
I'm going to ask her to become...
I'm going to need the money.
I'm going to ask her to become the next Mrs. Borland.
To which Tim says, you want her to be your mother? Right.
Which, yes, of course Tim would say that. But I still don't get what Al said. Has he been married before? Or is he just setting himself up for the mom joke by saying that?
I think he was just speaking in this sort of funny way where he was saying, like, I want her to be the next Mrs. Borland, meaning I want her to be the next in the line of women who have this name.
Okay, I guess that is what he meant. Strange phrasing. But yeah, basically he waves that away as like, yeah, I don't know, I've got too much on my plate, whatever. And so none of them want to do it. Like, they basically, understandably, are like, we don't want to be the owners of a hardware store.
Right, and Tim kind of considers it, but his wife, Jill, is like, we've got 3 boys to put through college.
Okay, so now that we're back at the house, let's talk about the boys. I audibly gasped when I saw, Brad? This oldest kid looks like Dolph Lundgren.
He looks like, and I've said this forever, he looks like Nick Carter from the Backstreet Boys.
But not now. He's Nick Carter on steroids. Like, he looks like he's about to get in the ring, with some sort of heavyweight. Okay. Yeah, this kid is like, I don't want to be the cute little kid anymore. I'm going to work out and be fucking jacked, I think.
Yeah, well, I think also he was one of these kids that kind of started getting chunky. And so what do you do when you start getting chunky and you're on TV? You work out. So he has this sort of like in between, I'm, going to the gym and I'm a little bit heavy sort of thing going on.
Yeah, they definitely, for better or worse.
He looks like he's a kid in high school that plays football. That's what he looks like.
Yeah, which again, it's totally normal. That's what happens to kids. But I did gasp. I will say again, like Dolph Lundgren in the 90s, like that's him.
And then the little one, little Mark, comes in and he's talking like this.
Yes, they're all through puberty.
Like,
Mark
is
is
so weird.
Mark is like still skinny and kind of cute baby face type kid. But yeah, they decided for better or worse to not do the thing of let's have another kid. So we have a cute kid on the show. So now we just have one, nowhere to be found. He's off filming movies, and two young men that are just like here in the house with them. So they don't really get all that much to do. Their first plan is sort of similar to Charles. They're going to host a party, right, to try to sort of
fundraiser.
Is it like a fundraiser per se, or they actually want to like essentially convince somebody to buy the rest?
Yeah, they basically decide that they're going to invite a bunch of like money people that Tim has connections with to the house, have a little, cocktail hour dinner party, and start just, networking, kicking around the idea of, hey, maybe somebody should buy this place. To it all turns into them all yelling at Tim, like, why did you bring us here to buy something? Why don't you buy the place? What's wrong with you? Put your money where your mouth is. Yeah. So Tim, having already told Jill, you're right, we can't afford that, and I don't have the time to do it, caves under peer pressure and says, you're right, I should buy the place. That's it, I'm buying it.
No, yes, it is straight up peer pressure. Like they're basically just like chanting for him to do it. Now at this party, there's a few things going on. You've got the skeeviest guy in the world, like coming on to Jill, or rather saying to Tim, your old ball and chain's looking hot, right? And Tim goes over and it's like, hey, why don't you give that guy a little attention? You've got Harry, the hardware store guy, is there chain smoking in front of his wife, the asthma lady. You've got in general this thing of that 90s, small business thing that we were talking about, where Jill is the one, when Tim first mentions this whole predicament in the first place, she starts going like, yeah, the same thing's happening at the bookstore. The bookstore is now this sterile corporate place, you know, and it's, just again, it really like, that's the theme here. And it is one of those things that we look back on and just kind of go like, we lost that battle. Like, this is, this is something that's true, and it's a bit of a shame, and it happened.
And it happened, and so many of them are gone. Now, there are still places where that's not true, but, it's for the most part, we did, the big box stores did win out. And this is 1999, and when I looked at the date again, and it reminded me that I have had a few of these experiences, not where we like saved our hangout by doing a big fundraiser or this, that, or the other thing. But my group of friends, we were really into coffee shops. I was a theater kid in high school, so we were like artsy fartsy. We like to smoke our clove cigarettes, and we like to hang out in coffee shops. That was like our jam. And there were several coffee shops over the years that Starbucks and Joffrey's would build their stores right across the street. Yeah. And eventually our cool hangout coffee shops.
Tom Hanks' strategy, and you've got me.
Exactly, would go out of business. And so this was in my days where I was like, I hated Starbucks with just so much ire, and would not go there. And I would go to my brother's baseball games, and I would go on rants about how Starbucks and SUVs were killing our country. And I think back on that now, and now of course, like, drive an SUV and go to Starbucks. I mean, I guess not now, I have a regular car, but had an SUV for quite a long time. Like, you think about that and it's like, yeah, they won, but like, it's my fucking fault.
Yeah, like, to an extent.
Like, I'm the one that used to say, oh, you can't close down my coffee shop. I'm never going to your stupid, gross coffee. Coffee's much better here, and all this stuff.
The difference is, I think, food establishments have a chance, because that's something that there will always be some sort of a need for, like, retail food, for lack of a better, for like some sort of brick and mortar food. And there is the possibility of, like, even if they're a little more expensive, like they could have really great bagels or soup or whatever it is. Whereas things like bookstores or hardware stores, it is really rough. And it is, now it's not obviously.
Because the product is the actual, like it's a nut, you're buying a bolt or you're buying a nut, you know what I mean?
Most of us,
it's not the same, like it's the same thing. Whereas like the feeling you get when your coffee is delicious, and yes, it's better coffee, but
that's
my local
the difference
place
between us and Tim the Toolman Taylor is for him the hardware store is this like sacred place, and for most of us it's like who cares. And now obviously the threat is not the big box stores anymore. The concept of going to a store at all seems silly, if I need some sort of special wrench.
Who has Hangouts now?
Again, it's one thing like people still go to drink coffee, drink alcohol. Not as many people are going to hang out at the mall or at a store because you're just helping somebody pay the rent for this brick and mortar place that they have that is not really a necessary part of the process for you, buying your product.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tim buys the store, and they find out pretty quickly that their customers are revolting because the prices are so much cheaper at Tool Barn, and they can't. The brother is helping them out working at the store, but he's just getting impatient with the customers, going, if you like Tool Barn so much, go buy their stuff, and basically everything's falling apart immediately.
Right.
Not unlike when Webster tried to run the restaurant.
Yeah. Well, and so Tim's like, I don't understand it. Sales are down. They weren't this low when Harry was here. And I don't know if it's Al or somebody else who's like, well, that's because people who shopped here, it's one of their other friends.
It's Wilson, I thought, who comes in and says it's all about the personal relationship.
Yeah, is it Wilson? And we get all the funny little things where like Wilson's holding products up in front of his face so that we still don't see his face. The best one is the rake.
I was going to say the rake is it's definitely the most effective.
Yeah, and also it's the moment where he's like laughing. Like the guy playing the little brother, his character's name is Marty, and he is, he's like, oh man, I know what we could do. We could print out some flyers and then we could go paper the neighborhood on our bikes. And Tim just starts like ribbing him relentlessly. He's like, oh yeah, Timmy, can we do that? Should we get Lassie to come too? And you see the guy playing Wilson behind the rake just like cracking up laughing at the way Tim, the way he's like messing with his little brother, but really it was the actors, like they had to cut the guy who was playing Marty out of frame because he was laughing so hard. So you like only are seeing Tim just sort of standing back, grinning at what, he like that he made everybody break. So anyway, you've got all the characters there, and they're saying like, the reason that this store worked before was because of the relationship, and they knew that they trusted Harry. And that's when their other friend comes in and is like, yeah, I bought some over at, Tool Town or whatever, Tool Box Barn or something the other week because it's cheaper over there. So I don't feel guilty about it anymore because it's not Harry, and I don't have this relationship with you. And they're like, geez, man, because he's one of their friends. So if he's going to do that, then everybody's going to do that. So that's when they decide that he and Al are going to give, they're going to have free videos for checkout.
Yes, another multi-pronged approach, a video library.
That's right, to do any project. So any project you might want to do, we have a how-to video to do that.
This is very clever on their part.
That's a good idea.
The fact that they are the hosts of this home improvement show.
Yeah.
And why not, at a time when you can't just look up tutorials online. Actually, you're almost at the time when you can. Yeah, make this video library of all your ToolTime episodes. And so you've got a hardware store / hardware themed video store.
Well, and that's the thing. They didn't have to go shoot all new things
because
they had it already.
Yeah,
it's
really
just
smart.
Old episodes of their show where they did the things. And then they also said, and we bought these cell phones, and they got these old ass like flip cell phones.
This was the second prong is where they made their mistake.
Right.
Their 24-hour a day hotline
that connects with each of them.
Yeah.
So you can get Tim or Al any time of day, 24 hours a day. One of them is always on call with the phone, and will help you answer, talk you through any question you have, any problem you have when it comes to home improvement stuff.
So we get fun stuff with they missed their cue on the TV show because they're both on their phones backstage helping customers. And then Tim, during his romantic time with Jill, gets phone calls. And so he has to fix somebody's toilet or walk him through fixing the toilet.
Yeah, snake in the toilet.
Yeah, that
turns out it's his older brother.
Yeah. The whole third act is basically that. It's like this whole thing is taking a toll on them, having to be so responsible. It's working, and they're having their most profitable week ever at the hardware store because now they've got all these people that they have these like entrenched relationships with.
And it's great. Business is booming. It's really wonderful. But Tim and Al already have a full-time job.
Yeah.
And now they have two. And they've got Marty there, as the like sales guy, doing everything. But they're just Tim. And, after it ruins his romantic night with Jill, he is just like, he makes the decision that he needs to sell. And so he goes in the next day. And his other brother is there. And he's like, Marty, what'd you invite him for? And he's like, oh, he had me come over and look at the books. And he's like, well, don't worry about that because I'm selling. And the older brother's like, well, why? It's, you're more profitable now than you were when Harry was here. All the improvements that you've done have worked. And he's like, yeah, but I can't keep up this pace. Like, I literally have no life. I'm running a business and I'm running a show and I can't, I can't do it. I'm missing out on important things with my family. And his older brother is like, well, why didn't you just ask for some help? Like, I'll take over part ownership and help out with it. And he's like, wait, what? And then they have this moment where like the three brothers, and he's like, and once Marty's back on his feet, he can buy into it too. And so now it's the three brothers are going to own the hardware store. I put
Deus Ex bald guy. Yeah. Like this whole thing just ends with the older brother going like, oh, let's see.
I don't already have a full-time job. I'll help too.
You don't have enough time? I'll help you with some of the work. And you're not sure about the money? I'll give you some of the money. And the phone calls are taking too long. Well, what if you didn't do as many? And like they just sort of like walk back everything in the show. And he's like, well, all right. I guess if you're willing to do that, then I guess problem solved. And so
season 8. That's what.
It is just again. This one does not have a villain looming over it that they have to convince. This is purely just like, is this or isn't it a good idea?
Yeah, how do we compete in the world of there being a big box store, but not like,
and I guess you're
try
happy
to shut him down.
For once we have a Tim the Toolman episode where he's not even doing anything that dumb or selfish. Like, he's only being a little dumb by agreeing to buy the restaurant or to buy the hardware store for no reason other than people were chanting his name and saying, buy it.
Right.
But he's not as much of an asshole as he usually is. And
no, that's true.
The solution, like, the whole thing is just like a very sort of low conflict affair,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's sort of running them ragged to do it. They get a little help, and now they'll be able to do it.
I mean, I guess. This is the thing. I don't understand how, the bald guy really is going to solve any problems. The older brother, he's an accountant. He has his own firm. He already also has a full-time job.
Yeah. Well,
so just having another partner in there isn't going to...
Yeah, one of the things
I don't see how it's really going to help.
One of the suggestions is actually quite realistic in a way, but just does not work for a show to me when he goes well, now that you've got all these loyal customers, just scale back the hours a little, which is actually that probably is what you would do. But it just sort of seems like an inelegant sitcom denouement, if you will, for him to be like, oh, okay, well, now I guess I just won't work nights. All right, roll credits.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know. The whole thing seemed a little hokey.
Yeah, although I could say this is the one where I mean, look, this is what? Season 8, episode 21. Is there a 9th season?
No, this is it, I think.
Okay, so I guess it's kind of a moot point. I mean, I was wondering if this would change the shape of the show a little bit, if this is like they do in so many shows where they're like, oh, we're running out of ideas. What if Uncle Jesse owns the nightclub now? You know?
No, this is the last season and we're like 2 episodes away from the end.
All right, fair enough. Well, what do we think? We've got a lot of hangouts. All right, that was from our Save Our Hangouts episode. Those were the first 4 discussions we had of Home Improvement. I'm sure it was nothing but glowing recommendations and, being totally on board with the portrayal of women and relationships and all the whole sort of worldview that is put forth by Home Improvement. So now...
Yes, the ToolTime ethos, as it were. Yeah,
we're going to finish with a few more age comparisons. And this time, I'm really giving you the hard ones. These are people who are...
I got all these wrong already!
These people are very, very close in age to Al Borland.
Okay.
So, first, I'm going to ask you about... That old SOB that we all know and love, Joe Montgomery Hackett, right? You, of course, remember that Joe Montgomery Hackett is portrayed by Tim Daly in the show Wings.
I was going to say, I know Hackett, but I couldn't remember where I know it from. But yes, okay, Tim Daly, gotcha.
He is a character in Wings. This was on the show from 1990 to 1997, so very, very strong overlap here. He was born within a month of Richard.
That is so surprising because I mean, Tyne Daly is his sister and she is much older, but I just, I would think that he's older. So I'm going with older. That's what I'm going with.
Tim Daly is about 14 days younger than Richard Karn, making his character Joseph, whatever I said,
Joe Hackett,
14 days younger.
You're naming all these people like they are, like they're suspects on the news. You're giving them all their 3 names.
Well, that's how he's credited. Okay. This one's a little bit more of a gap. This one's about a year. We're talking about the man we all love to hate to love, Mr. Ray Romano, portraying the character of Ray Barone on his series Everybody Loves Raymond, which aired from 96 to 2005, so a slightly later air dates. But Ray Romano was born about a year apart from Richard Karn. Do you think he's older or younger?
Well, we already know that Brad Garrett, who played Ray Romano's younger brother, is actually younger than Al Borland. I'm going to say that Ray Romano is also younger.
That is correct. I like your reasoning there.
I got 2.
Yeah, no, that's your third one, at least.
Oh, is it the third one? I thought it was just second.
Ray Romano was born about a year later than Richard Karn. And finally, we have a gentleman who was born 10 days difference from Richard Karn. These two fellas are very, very close in age. Mr. Bryan Cranston, who, of course, portrayed the role of Hal in Malcolm in the Middle.
Yes.
Do you think that he is older or younger than Al Borland?
Bryan Cranston is 10 days younger.
Bryan Cranston, a.k.a. Hal from Malcolm in the Middle, is 10 days older than Richard Karn. You are good at very many things, but somehow guessing the age of actors relative to Home Improvement star Richard Karn is not your strength.
Now, I will tell you why. We've had this discussion, not on the podcast, but I am able to kind of suss out people's ages by how old they are relative to me. So by not telling me how old or when Richard Karn was born, I was not able to relate that to me to be able to tell you whether they were older or younger. Now, had you told me how old he was or when he was born, you know, how old he was when ToolTime was going on or when he was born, I will guarantee you I would have done better. Because it's all come back to me, Jay. It's all about their relative age to me.
Well, I will tell you that Richard Karn, how much older than you do you think he is?
Ooh, that is a good question. Okay, so let's see. In 1991, I was 11, right? Is that right? And that was when the show started. And he was probably like 30 then. That's my guess. So in 1991, he was 30. So that means he was born in what, 61? That's my guess.
He's a few years older than that. He was a few years older than 30. So Richard Karn, if we set aside the month for now, just to make the math easy, he was born 23 years before you and I were.
Okay.
He was born on February 17th, 1956. He is currently 70 years young. It's a little depressing to know we're only 23 years.
He's 70 now. So that makes all the difference because 70 is like our parents' age. So I would have been like, I definitely would have known some people were younger. For sure. And I guessed older on a lot of people because I thought he was younger than that.
Yeah. I mean, the beard and the sort of, you know, pleasantly stocky frame makes it a little hard to guess his age at that time, but I would have guessed mid-30s when Home Improvement started. And yeah, being born in 56, he would be about 35 when Home Improvement started. Anyway, there you have it. Everything you ever wanted to know about Al Borland, Richard Karn, the ages of various actors in relation to him, the evolution of the Snow Buddies series, and all kinds of things. We will be back with our regularly scheduled program next week, which will be all about sitcom dance marathons, if I recall correctly. I hope this has been enlightening for you, Amy, and for you, the listener, and all the other Al heads out there. Any final thoughts on everything you've learned?
Anything I've learned? No, I'm shamed. But Jay, you did a lot of research on your man. What fun fact was your favorite?
I mean, I think it goes without saying that I'll be spooling up a few of the Air Bud movies tonight. I think we're going to see which particular streaming service houses Seventh Inning Fetch. I guess logically it would be Disney Plus, but maybe I'll purchase it on Amazon just to, you know, give a few more shekels to Karn, just to kind of vote with my pocketbook, you know.
Very nice. Well, enjoy that.
All right. That's it for now. And until next week, we will consider this segment of the sitcom study concluded. Thank you for listening to the Sitcom Study. Tell us what you think or share your own TV tropes and topic ideas by sending a self-addressed stamped email to sitcomstudypodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram. And if you like the show, consider leaving a rating or review on your podcast app. It helps us boost those precious Nielsen ratings. The Sitcom Study is recorded in front of a live studio dog.